Chapter 2177. 2177 2177 Killing Sword 4. Hu Wei actually lost. How is this possible? They are just a disciple of the hidden tiger planet. The third move wasn't fully unleashed. He only used 1/3 of it before he was defeated. This swordsman is so strong. When the Fox Vein Divine Race disciples saw this scene, their expressions changed slightly. They were all shocked. Around them, the disciples of the hidden tiger planet looked at the broken sword in shock. As expected of the killing sword god's disciple. He's so strong. Hiss, in just a year, the broken sword has followed the killing sword god to such a realm. All the disciples looked at the broken sword in awe. Even Hu Jianming's pupils constricted slightly. His eyes were filled with shock. He only knew that the broken sword was very strong, but it was not that strong. What a sharp sword, what a killing sword. Seeing this scene, Hu Dongyang's face was filled with a solemn expression. To be able to defeat Hu Wei in just 2.5 moves, even he himself could not do it. Facing those densely packed sharp swords, he had to consider whether he could receive them. With such strength, it's possible for him to even contend against those two guys from the imperial family. Hu Dongyang muttered. When the Hu Wen celestial race's disciples heard his evaluation, their expressions became even more shocked. Contend against the most outstanding disciples of the Divine Tiger Dynasty. This swordsman was so strong. Although my swordsmanship isn't 1% of masters, defeating you is enough. Although the hidden tiger planet isn't the main planet of the Divine Tiger Dynasty, it's not a place where you can be impudent. Duan Chengjian stared at Hu Wei arrogantly and said coldly. Hu Wei's expression kept changing when he heard Duan Chengjian's rebuke. He was extremely embarrassed. He's actually so strong. At the back, Princess Tianran and Gu Xiaoyan were shocked when they saw how strong Duan Chengjian was. Princess Tianran's eyes sparkled and she looked hesitant. Cousin. She called out to Hu Jianming beside her in a low voice. Tianran? Hu Jianming heard her and looked over in confusion. Cousin, can you get Duan Chengjian to help me take revenge on someone? She bit her lips and said in a low voice. Oh. Hu Jianming raised his eyebrows, looked at her and then looked at Gu Shan. Cousin, this is a small token of my appreciation. Gu Xiaoan gritted his teeth and took out a treasure from his interspatial ring and handed it over. Hu Jianming looked over and his face was full of smiles. He slowly nodded his head. He had also heard about his cousin and Gu Xiaotian in the past 2 days. He walked over to Duan Chengjian, who was standing proudly in the middle, and said a few words in a low voice. Oh, since Brother Jianming has spoken, it's just a small matter. Duan Chengjian looked at Princess Tianran and Gu Xiaoyan's positions and nodded indifferently. Princess Tianran saw that he had agreed and revealed an excited expression. A trace of malevolence flashed across her face and she immediately walked towards Duan Chengjian. Brother Chengjian, I hope that you will teach him a good lesson and make him lose face in front of everyone. Princess Tianran walked over and said. It's a small matter. Duan Chengjian nodded. Although he was very strong now, his background wasn't very deep in the past and he wanted to make friends with some influential people. The entire hidden tiger planet was under the control of Princess Tianran's father and Tiger Sword Ming's father. Making friends with them and helping them deal with some people was just a small matter. What are they doing? Some people saw Princess Tianran, Gu Xiaotian, and the rest walking to Duan Chengjian's side and whispering to each other. Their eyes flickered as they thought of something. Someone humiliated Brother Gu Xiaotian and Princess Tianran 10 days ago. Can you give them an explanation today? Duan Chengjian suddenly opened his mouth and spoke slowly. His gaze shifted to the back of the Hu Wen celestial race. Huh. When they looked over, Wang Xian and Hu Yen frowned slightly. Not good. Princess Tianran and Gu Xiaoan want revenge. Hu Ji's expression changed slightly when he saw Duan Chengjian looking over. He growled at Wang Xian and the rest in a low voice. HMH, we didn't humiliate them 10 days ago. They were just asking for it. Hu Yen-er looked at Duan Qingjian and snorted. Then, she looked at Princess Tianran and the others. Do you think you can find someone just because you can't get the situation back? I really look down on you. She continued coldly. These few days, your Foxvane race spread rumors about us. Do you really think that I won't do anything to you? Princess Tianran stared at Hu Yen-er coldly. You should know the truth in your hearts. Hu Yen-er said coldly. All right, no matter what, you will have to pay a price for spreading rumors. I heard that you are also at the peak of the demigod level. I would like to challenge you. Let's spar with each other. We won't be cowards, right? Duan Qingjian interrupted them. He held his sword lazily and crossed his arms. He raised his head slightly and taunted Wang Xian. Even though he knew that he had the strength of a peak-stage demigod, he didn't take it to heart. He now had the strength of a peak-stage demigod. He believed that he was undefeatable by relying on his swordsmanship. Even if he were to meet the divine son of the divine Tiger Dynasty's royal family, he wouldn't be afraid at all. When the people around saw this scene, their eyes flickered. Who could tell that Princess Tianran and the rest wanted revenge? It all depended on whether Hu Yen-er and the rest would respond or not. Even if they didn't respond, there wasn't much of a problem. They just wanted Princess Tianran and the rest to mock them. This was purely to disgust them. Don't agree. That broken sword is a little strong. Even if we don't accept the challenge, it's fine. Hu Ji whispered to Hu Yen-er and Wang Xian. Why don't you accept the challenge? Hu Yen-er raised her head slightly and spoke loudly. She looked at Wang Xian with a look of eagerness in her eyes. She had seen the attack from Broken Sword earlier. She was confident that she could withstand it. Do you want to accept the challenge? This is interesting. I would like to see who is the strongest person among the younger generation of our hidden tiger planet. It should be Duan Qingjian. His strength is too terrifying. From this, it can be seen that the killing sword god's strength is also very terrifying. Some people were discussing. They were hoping that Wang Xian would fight with Duan Qingjian. Hu Dongyang and the rest of the Huan celestial race also looked at Wang Xian's position. Their eyes were sparkling. Go, believe in yourself. However, at this moment, a scene that shocked everyone appeared. Hu Yen-er's fiancé suddenly patted Hu Yen-er and said with a smile. Upon seeing this scene, everyone was a little dumbfounded. What? Let Hu Yen-er go on stage? What kind of joke was this? Yes. Hu Yen-er's face was filled with excitement. Ever since her cultivation had risen to the peak of the demigod realm, she had not displayed her strength. Even her father did not know her current strength. Today, she was able to amaze everyone. Brother Wang Xian, you don't have the strength to challenge me. Let me challenge you. As she spoke, she held a staff in her hand and walked forward. Chapter 2178 2178 Dragon King's respect for the heartless sword principle. This younger sister, what are you doing? Seeing Hu Yen-er come to the center of the scene, Hu Ji was slightly stunned and looked at his younger sister with a stutter. Everyone around also looked at her in astonishment. Is Hu Yen-er here to make a joke? She seems to only have the strength of a first-level demigod? Some of the disciples who knew Hu Yen-er looked at her in astonishment. Was this a joke? The disciples of the Huan celestial race frowned slightly. You're going on stage? Hu Yen-er, are you here to make a joke? Why don't I spar with you? Princess Tianran stared at Hu Yen-er and said disdainfully. Sure, but the current you is no longer qualified. Hu Yen-er raised her head happily and raised the wooden staff in her hand. Whoosh! She waved her arm and a sharp wooden spike directly attacked Princess Tianran. Hu Yen, you're looking for humiliation. Princess Tianran's face turned cold and she was ready to fight back. Huh! However, before he could make a move, Broken Sword, who was standing in the middle, had a slight change in expression. The long sword in his hand directly blocked the wooden spear. Bang! A collision sound was heard. The sharp sword in Duan Qingjian's hand swayed. Peak of the demigod rank. His face revealed a solemn and shocked expression. He couldn't help but exclaim, "What?" When everyone around heard Duan Qingjian's words, their faces revealed a shocked expression. Especially Princess Tian Ran, Gu Xiaodian, and the others. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? She is clearly at the first level of the demigod level. How can she be at the peak of the demigod level? Princess Tian Ran could not help but exclaim, This. Even Hu Ji looked at his sister in disbelief. He was almost certain that half a month ago, his sister was still at the first level of the demigod level. How could she be at the peak of the demigod level? He looked at Wang Xian, who was beside him abruptly, and his expression changed drastically. If his sister had reached the peak of the demigod realm, it must be because of him. However, was it possible to raise her to the peak of the demigod realm in such a short period of time? Peak of the demigod realm. The disciples of the main clan of the fox-striped god clan were also shocked. Out of the tens of thousands of disciples in their main clan, only 2 of them had reached the peak of the demigod realm. However, there were 2 peak of the demigod realm in this branch clan. You do have the qualifications to make me fight. However, similarly, I will defeat you in 3 moves. Duan Qingjian stared coldly at Hu Yen as his long sword slowly pointed at her. If it was just those 3 moves, it might not be enough. Hu Yen raised her head with confidence. Is that so? Duan Qingjian narrowed his eyes slightly. Charge and kill. Return. The long sword in his hand stabbed forward. At the same time, the long sword in his hand shook and directly floated in the air above him. He used 2 moves at once. Move flowers to connect wood, 100 flowers bloom. Hu Yen raised the staff in her hand, and branches and flowers bloomed around her. The flowers emitted a magical fragrance and directly attacked Duan Qingjian. The beauty was filled with killing intent. At the same time, 2 resplendent wooden spears met the 2 returning swords. Bang bang! The wooden spears collided with the sharp swords, and the wooden spears directly split apart. The sharp swords directly pierced through the wooden spears. However, at this moment, thorns began to twine around the wooden spears. What terrifying control! When Hu Dongyang saw Hu Yen-er's move, his face revealed a shocked expression. He blocked it. Duan Qingjian's 2 moves were blocked. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were also slightly shocked. They were somewhat shocked by Hu Yen-er's strength. 10,000 swords. Duan Qingjian's expression also changed slightly as he let out a low roar. Tens of thousands of sharp swords appeared in the sky and instantly attacked Hu Yen. However, at this moment, flower petals had already attacked Duan Qingjian. Bang! 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 The flower petals collided with the sharp swords, making a noise that sounded like metal colliding. The flower petals were cut into pieces, floating toward the broken sword. Buzz! When the flower petals were scattered around the broken sword, the Fox-Mark God clan's special talent, charm, took effect. The broken sword's face stiffened, and the sharp swords in the air paused. Bloom! Hu Yen-er grabbed the flower petals and let out a soft shout. Each flower was emitting a dark green light, and each flower had a needle on it. The flower petals spun and covered the broken sword. Shit! When the broken sword reacted, the flower petals had already covered the broken sword. His face changed slightly and he quickly retreated. Heartless sword! He roared and countless rays of golden light shot out from his body. The golden light instantly shot out. Rays of golden light shot towards the petals that surrounded him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The petals were chopped into pieces. Pierce! However, at this moment, Hu Yen let out a soft cry and the sharp thorns on the petals shot out. Ah! His expression changed slightly and his face was instantly covered by the sharp thorns. Although his injuries were not serious, it made his expression extremely ugly. You're courting death. Ice-cold killing intent shot out from his body. He slowly raised his arms and pressed his palms together in the air. His entire person was like a sharp sword. Hu Yen actually injured the broken sword. How powerful! When the surrounding people saw the furious roar of the broken sword, their faces revealed a shocked expression. Hu Yen actually had the upper hand. All of this caused them to be in a daze. Behind them, Princess Tianran and Gu Xiaoyan's bodies were slightly trembling. Hu Yen actually had the strength of a peak-stage demigod. She actually had the upper hand. But even if they didn't have the upper hand, Hu Yen and the others were already in an undefeatable position. 2 peak-stage demigods. What could the 2 of them compare with? Background? But talent and strength were more important. What's going on? The battle over there is very intense. The aura of a peak-stage demigod? At this moment, at the center of the teleportation array, the experts from the various major factions who were talking sensed the violent energy here and were slightly stunned. The 2 princes of the hidden tiger planet and the god-level experts of the fox pattern divine race looked over and slightly frowned. Let's go over and take a look. What are you guys doing? One of the princes frowned and walked towards the place where the battle was taking place. This sword technique of Duan Chengjian is somewhat familiar. Is he from the inherited Dragon Guard? His talent is pretty good. Wang Xian looked at the battle and thought to himself. The sword technique of Duan Chengjian was somewhat familiar, especially this move that he was using now. It should have come from the Dragon Guard of the Golden Swordfish. Of course, Hu Yen would not lose. Even though her strength had improved a little too quickly, with his guidance and the assistance of the Ancestral Tree's energy, it would be difficult for anyone to defeat her in the same level. I won. Wang Xian looked ahead and said calmly. The messy flowers are becoming more and more mesmerizing. You lost? At this moment, Hu Yen-er's joyful laughter rang out. In the middle, just as Broken Sword broke through the countless petals, he could feel the sharpness coming from behind him. That was the wood element's penetrating power. Blossoming chaos bewitching eyes. She had already arrived behind him. Broken Sword, whose face was covered in blood from the sharp thorns, had a ferocious expression on his face. He could not believe it. He could not believe that he would actually lose. He had yet to unleash his body transformation divine sword. She won. Hu Yen actually won. Everyone around widened their eyes slightly. Their faces were filled with shock. Hu Yen raised her head slightly and withdrew the wooden spear in her hand. She looked at Wang Xian as if she wanted to claim credit for herself. I have not lost yet. All of a sudden, Duan Chengjian, who had transformed into a sword, let out a ferocious roar. He turned around unwillingly and attacked Hu Yen with his body as a sword. Ah! Hu Yen was stunned when she saw him suddenly turning around to attack. Damn it! Wang Xian's pupils contracted slightly when he saw this scene. Chapter 2179 2179 Dragon King's Respect for the Heartless Sword Principle. Hidden Tiger Planet's Teleportation Array Square. Hu Yen stood behind Duan Chengjian. She thought that she had already won, but she did not have the slightest bit of defense. She never thought that Duan Chengjian would suddenly attack. She, who did not have much battle experience, was momentarily stunned. She did not even know how to resist. The surrounding people did not expect Duan Chengjian to suddenly turn around and continue his attack. The expressions of the disciples changed slightly. Wang Xian's pupils constricted slightly. His eyes were filled with a violent killing intent. However, his current combat strength had only recovered to about 2 wisps of divine fire. At this close distance, he was already too late. Stop! However, at this moment, the expressions of the gods who were rushing over changed slightly when they saw this scene. The first elder of the fox pattern divine race waved his arm, and a wooden shield instantly appeared in front of Hu Yen. Ka. However, although the first elder of the fox pattern divine race had already ignited 7 wisps of divine fire, the defense that he hastily released wasn't very strong. It had only reached the peak of the demigod realm. The move of the broken sword had an incomparably terrifying destructive power. Its defense was extremely urgent, and a powerful force landed on Hu Yen-er's body. Bang! In an instant, Hu Yen-er spat out blood. Yen-er. Wang Xian moved his body and was about to fly over. However, Hu Fei, who was closer to her, went over with a pained expression and hugged her daughter. I'm fine, I'm fine. Luckily, I'm fine. Hu Fei took a look at her daughter's injuries and heaved a heavy sigh of relief. Damn it. Wang Xian looked over and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that Hu Yen-er was fine. However, at the next moment, Wang Xian moved his body and a gray long sword pierced through the broken sword. Brother Qingjian, be careful. The sudden change caused everyone's expression to change. This bunch of brats. At the position of the gods, an old man's expression changed slightly as anger appeared on his face. He pushed his palm forward and a flaming palm attacked the gray longsword released by Wang Xian. Bang! What? The flaming palm landed on the longsword. However, what shocked the old man was that his attack did not completely block the longsword. Not good. At this moment, Duan Qingjian's expression changed slightly when he saw this scene. He hurriedly dodged to the side. However, Wang Xian's full-strength attack, which was filled with anger, was still not something he could completely dodge even though most of his strength had been reduced. Ah! A scream came out from the mouth of the broken sword. Everyone looked over and saw that the arm that was connected to the broken sword was directly cut off and fell to the ground. Everyone's expression changed when they saw this scene. Stop! At this moment, an angry shout was heard. The old man with a tiger's head embroidered on his costume immediately stood in front of the broken sword and immediately took both of his arms and attached them to it. He frowned and glanced at Wang Xian. His face was filled with displeasure. Hiss! When everyone around saw this scene, they couldn't help but take a deep breath. They never expected that Wang Xian would actually dare to kill him directly. Moreover, he even chopped off Duan Qingjian's arms directly. Who? You actually chopped off my arms. Duan Qingjian's face was filled with cold sweat. He roared at Wang Xian with a ferocious and furious expression. Not only do I want to chop off your arm, I also want to kill you. Wang Xian said coldly as he walked straight towards him. Stop. How dare you? Don't you remember the rules of the Divine Tiger Dynasty? Do you want me to tell you? The old man standing beside Duan Qingjian looked a little embarrassed as he shouted sternly. You should have seen clearly what happened just now. There's no need to judge who's right and who's wrong. Since he wants to fight, I'll play with him. Wang Xian looked at the old man and said calmly, This matter really needs to be explained to us Huan celestial race disciples. Hu Yen-er's grandfather walked over with a cold expression. They had already witnessed the scene just now. When he saw that his granddaughter was injured, he stared at Duan Qingjian with a cold expression. When Duan Qingjian saw that everyone from the Huan celestial race was staring at him coldly, his expression changed slightly. He has already cut off my arm. What else do you want? He said to Hu Yen-er's grandfather with an unsightly expression. He was defeated, but he didn't admit defeat and launched a sneak attack. He broke the rules and only lost 2 arms. Do you think this matter is over? Hu Dongyang and the others also stared at Duan Qingjian coldly as they spoke. They were disciples of the Fox Pattern Divine Race, so they naturally spoke up for the Fox Pattern Divine Race. I didn't admit defeat in the battle just now. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. My master is the killing sword god. Duan Qingjian's body trembled as he growled with an embarrassed expression. Brother Duan Qingjian has the strength of a peak demigod. He might have been a little reckless just now. This person has already chopped off 2 of his arms. Let's forget about this matter. Hu Jianming frowned slightly and said, That's right. Hu Yen-er didn't suffer much injury either. Moreover, Duan Qingjian didn't admit defeat in the battle just now. She was naive to think that she had won. That's right. How can there be a one-sided announcement of victory in a sparring match? As Hu Jianming's voice fell, Princess Tian ran and a few others said from the side, "Killing Sword God." When Hu Fei and the others heard this name, their pupils constricted slightly and their faces were filled with fear. The Killing Sword God that appeared more than a year ago. The eyes of the first elder of the Huan celestial race flickered as he asked Hu Fei and the others. "It's the first elder." Hu Fei nodded his head. "Let's drop this matter. From now on, all the disciples will spar with each other. The sparring will end when the sparring ends." A prince from the hidden tiger planet spoke up. "Qingjian, are you all right?" Seeing that the matter was over, Princess Tian ran and the rest of the Hujian immediately walked to Duan Qingjian's side. "I'm fine." Duan Qingjian nodded his head with an extremely ugly expression. "Just you wait." He glared at Wang Xian with a face full of hatred and growled coldly. "I think you want to die." Killing intent shot out from Wang Xian's eyes. "All right, Xiao Xian, come here." Hu Fei felt the killing intent from Wang Xian and was satisfied. He shouted at him. Wang Xian hesitated for a moment and walked over. "Let's forget about this matter. Yen didn't suffer any serious injuries. That kid's master is the life-killing sword god. He is very strong." Hu Fei saw him walking over and said softly, "How strong?" Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. "His swordsmanship is very terrifying. He once killed 4 wisps of divine fire god in an instant. He has a strange personality and is not easy to get along with. Moreover, that god of killing sword seems to have a few senior and junior brothers. Of course, our fox pattern celestial race is not afraid of that god of killing sword. It's just that we have not reached that stage yet. After all, that broken sword is also an elite disciple of the divine tiger dynasty." Hu Fei whispered, "Let's drop it." The first elder of the fox vein divine race nodded slightly. Clang! At this moment, a sharp metallic sound came from the distant horizon. Everyone felt the sharp swords in their hands tremble slightly. 3 figures flew over on their flying swords. "It's the killing sword god." Everyone looked over with shocked expressions. Chapter 2180. 2182,180 Dragon King under the merciless way of the sword. Slayer sword god, he actually came. Who are the 2 figures next to him? They are both wearing the same golden attire. Are they fellow disciples? Back then, Slayer sword god killed 4 wisps of divine fire god with a single sword strike. He was known as the Slayer sword god, the sword god. I heard that Slayer sword god has a solitary personality and is not easy to get along with. Back then, the prince and the others wanted to befriend him, but they did not meet him in person. However, his strength is absolutely terrifying. He only has 1 disciple. Do you think he will avenge his disciple? When they saw the 3 figures flying over from the horizon, everyone was slightly shocked. Slayer sword god's name rose to prominence a year ago. In the entire hidden tiger planet, his strength was definitely at the peak. The 2 people besides Slayer sword god also emitted a terrifying sword light. Their entire bodies are like sharp swords. Their strength might not be weaker than his. The group of gods looked over and revealed a look of astonishment. They are indeed very strong. The first elder of the fox pattern celestial race looked over and felt the sharpness coming from their bodies. He spoke slowly. "The master of broken sword is here." When the surrounding disciples saw this scene, they were also shocked. One by one, they raised their heads and looked over. "Cousin, do you think that broken sword's master will find trouble with Wang Xian when he sees him injured?" When Princess Tian Ran saw this scene, a look of anticipation appeared on her face. "I don't know." Hu Jianming frowned and shook his head slowly. He wasn't sure about the killer sword god's temper and personality. However, since all the experts of the fox pattern celestial race are here, nothing should happen. He said lightly, "That's true." Princess Tian Ran nodded in disappointment. "Master." Duan Qingjian saw his master and the others flying over and immediately went over to welcome them. What happened? A middle-aged man on the left looked at Duan Qingjian and asked immediately when he saw the injuries on his body. Master, I was ambushed and my arms were cut off. Duan Qingjian lowered his head and said softly, "It's the Dragon King's aura." At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the side. The middle-aged man who was known as the god of killing swords was slightly taken aback. He turned his head abruptly and looked down. Beside him, two middle-aged men stared at Wang Xian's figure with eyes filled with respect. Swoosh! The life-killing sword god hurriedly followed closely behind with his body slightly bowed. What are they doing? Could it be that the life-killing sword god is looking for trouble with Hu Yen'er's fiancé? No way! All the experts from the Hu Wen celestial race are here. Below, everyone's expression changed slightly when they saw the life-killing sword god and the other two terrifying sword gods flying straight towards Hu Yen'er's fiancé. I'm going to look for trouble with them. Princess Tianran and Gu Xiaoyan had expectant expressions on their faces when they saw this scene. The members of the Hu Wen celestial race frowned slightly. Brother Wang Xian. Hu Yan recovered a little and walked towards Wang Xian with some worry. Hee. Wang Xian looked at the three people flying over and revealed a smile instead. He looked at them indifferently. Slayer's sword god and the rest landed on the ground and quickened their pace. Wang Xian took 2 steps forward slowly. Everyone around looked over and their faces were filled with astonishment. Was Slayer's sword god really going to offend the fox-pattern celestial race for his disciple? However, with Slayer's sword god's personality, it was really possible. Some people thought to themselves, "Greetings." However, when they thought that the god of killing swords was going to punish Hu Yen'er's fiancé because of his disciple's matter, a scene that shocked and stunned everyone appeared. The god of killing swords and the other 2 extraordinary god of swords knelt on the ground and shouted loudly. However, he didn't say anything. Wang Xian waved his arm and stopped them. "Greetings, king." The 3 of them were slightly stunned. They continued to kneel on the ground and shouted respectfully, "Greetings, king." King. Everyone had an incredulous look on their faces when they saw this scene. They looked at this scene in a daze. Especially the members of the Hu Wen celestial race, Hu Fei, Hu Ji, and Hu Yan. They opened their mouths slightly and looked at this scene in shock. What was going on? The god of sword, who was so famous that even the king of the hidden tiger planet wanted to befriend him, was actually kneeling in front of Wang Xian. He even addressed Wang Xian as king directly. What? Behind him, Broken Sword walked over with a puzzled look on his face. When he saw this scene, his face was completely frozen. How is this possible? Your strength has improved quite well. However, there's something wrong with the disciples you taught. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the 3 of them. The 3 of them were naturally the dragon guards who had left the Dragon Palace for more than 3 years. The 3 of them in front of him were obviously the stronger ones among the dragon guards. Wang Xian was very satisfied with their strength. However, he was a little dissatisfied with their disciples. He was even a little displeased. "Wang, it's my fault for not teaching him well." The expression of the dragon guard on the left changed and he immediately shouted. Following that, he immediately stood up and turned around to look at Duan Qingjian. "Master!" Duan Qingjian looked at his master's cold expression. His expression changed slightly as he shouted softly, "Whoosh!" However, what happened next shocked everyone. The killing sword god waved his arm at the broken sword, and a sharp sword flashed past. Under everyone's shocked gazes, a long sword pierced through the broken sword, and then a golden light swept through his body. Wang! The golden light flashed, and the broken sword completely disappeared. Ah! Some timid girls saw this scene and screamed in fear. Everyone around could not help but take a step back. After killing the broken sword, strands of golden sharp swords revolved around the god of Slayer sword. Everyone could sense that the sword radiance on his body was even more terrifying. Anyone who offends the king shall be killed without mercy. He turned around and knelt down towards Wang Xian. You've taken another step forward. Get up. Wang Xian said slowly to them. This was the heartless sword principle. The Dragon King was revered, and the heartless sword principle could kill anyone. Those who cultivated the heartless sword principle would kill anyone who offended the Dragon King. Yes, King. The 3 dragon guards nodded and stood behind Wang Xian without saying a word. As the dragon guards, they were the Dragon King's most loyal guards. When they saw the Slayer Sword God and the other 2 powerful sword gods standing silently behind Hu Yen's fiancé, everyone was shocked. They looked at the young man in a daze. With just one sentence, the Slayer Sword God killed his own disciple with a single strike. They stood behind the young man like guards. Who was he? What was the identity of Hu Yen's fiancé? How could he have such terrifying subordinates? That was the powerful life-slaying sword god. Not only was the crowd shocked, even Hu Yan, Hu Fei, Hu Ji and the rest were staring at Wang Xian in disbelief. Chapter 2181. 2181. What was his identity? Brother Wang Xian, you are. Hu Yan stared at Wang Xian in disbelief. She opened her mouth and felt extremely unfamiliar when she looked at Wang Xian in front of her. 3 powerhouses who even their father and grandfather were afraid of were actually kneeling in front of him. What was his identity then? An emperor of the Celestial Dynasty. Your memory didn't disappear. Hu Fei frowned slightly as she stared at Wang Xian. Wang Xian's identity shocked them. It's not convenient to reveal it. Wang Xian looked at them and shook his head slightly. It's all thanks to Brother Wang Xian that my sister was able to reach the peak of the demigod realm. At this moment, Hu Ji suddenly opened his mouth and asked Wang Xian. Wang Xian nodded his head. Brother Wang Xian is very powerful. He managed to raise my strength to the peak of the demigod realm in just 10 days. Hu Yan looked at Wang Xian and said with a smile on her face, I actually neglected Yenger's cultivation in such a short period of time. Hu Fei was stunned as he looked at his daughter in a daze. He never expected that his daughter, who was at the first level of the demigod realm, would suddenly rise to the peak of the demigod realm. This was something that even the entire Huan celestial race would find difficult to achieve. In order to quickly nurture a disciple, this disciple had to have a strong comprehension ability. He understood his daughter. Her comprehension ability was not bad, but she definitely could not reach such a level. However, there was only one possibility for her to forcefully rise to the peak of the half-body realm within 10 days. Rare and mystical heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Usually, even gods would spy on such things. When the surrounding people heard their conversation, their gazes also landed on Hu Yan. The gods were astonished, and the disciples watched enviously. 10 days to raise half a step to the peak of the demigod realm was a terrifying thing. However, the most enviable thing was that Hu Yen's fiancé seemed to have a powerful background. The killing sword god had the strength of at least 5 wisps of divine fire, yet he directly knelt down and proclaimed himself king. One could imagine his background. He was definitely not weaker than the current Huan celestial race. In fact, he was much stronger. Princess Tianran and Gu Shaoan watched this scene with unsightly expressions. At this moment, their hearts were filled with reverence. Brother Wang Xian, are you leaving? Hu Yan looked at the 3 dragon guards behind him and asked with a frown. I'm going to the fallen immortal island as well. Furthermore, I just happened to bump into the 3 of them. Wang Xian shook his head at her and said with a smile, Don't worry, I won't be leaving for the time being. Oh! Hu Yan was glowing. I have something to ask them. Wang Xian spoke to Hu Yan, Hu Fei, and the rest before walking to the side. This young man is not simple. He is not at the peak of his physical strength. Judging from his actions just now, he must have ignited the divine fire. When the great elder of the Huan celestial race saw Wang Xian leaving, he walked over and spoke to Hu Fei, Hu Yen, and the rest calmly. Great elder, he was picked up by my brother and I at a place in our family. At that time, he was injured. Hu Yen said softly. This is a good thing. Since ancient times, heroes cannot overcome the beauty barrier. Little Yen is very beautiful. Hu Yen, who had a smile on her face, said. Even her attitude was much better. This was not only because of Hu Yen-er's current strength at the peak of the demigod realm, but also because of that mysterious young man. If Hu Yen-er really married that young man, it would be very beneficial to their fox-patterned celestial race. Hu Yen-er opened her mouth and her face was slightly red. However, she was a little nervous at this moment. She didn't expect Wang Xian to be so mysterious and powerful. I really didn't expect you to pick up such a mysterious young man, Yen. Get along well with him in the future. Grandpa will support you. An old man walked over and said with a burning passion in his heart. He was the leader of the branch family of the fox-patterned celestial race. However, his strength was only enough to ignite 3 wisps of divine fire. If his granddaughter could find a boyfriend with such a powerful background, it would be even more beneficial to their branch family. Hu Yen-er lowered her head and fiddled with the corner of her clothes. She raised her head and stole a glance at Wang Xian. Looking at his back, she could feel an air of superiority. This made her even more anxious. In the surroundings, the forces of the Divine Tiger Dynasty were looking in that direction and discussing in low voices. Are you guys going to the fallen immortal island as well? Wang Xian walked to the side and asked the 3 of them. It's the Dragon King. Dragon King, we have received news from the other clansmen that the leader wants us all to head to the fallen immortal island. The leader seems to have entered the island ahead of schedule. A dragon guard reported to Wang Xian. Have you lost a lot of your dragon guards? How far have you progressed in your cultivation of the Heartless Sword Principle? Wang Xian nodded and asked them. Out of the 2,500 dragon guards, we lost about 500 of them. However, we have already used the tree branches of the soul-returning tree to absorb their souls. Now, the 3 of us have reached a higher level in the Heartless Sword Principle. I believe that we can fight 2 levels above us. The dragon guards replied. Oh, we can fight 2 levels above us without achieving perfection. Wang Xian revealed a look of surprise and satisfaction in his eyes. Out of the 3 dragon guards in front of him, 2 of them had lit up 3 wisps of divine fire and 1 of them had lit up 4 wisps of divine fire. In other words, they possessed the combat strength of 5 wisps of divine fire and 6 wisps of divine fire. It seems that the dragon guards are born to cultivate the Heartless Sword Principle. Wang Xian said faintly. Thank you for your praise, Dragon King. The 3 dragon guards said with smiles on their faces. Brother Wang Xian, the formation is done. We are going over now. At this moment, Hu Yen-er's voice sounded. Coming. Wang Xian nodded and walked over immediately. Are you going to follow us all the way? Hu Yen-er saw Wang Xian walking over and asked him softly. Are you going to chase me away? Wang Xian looked at her with a smile. How can that be? I'm just. Hu Yen-er shook her head hurriedly. All right, let's talk about it after my injuries have fully recovered. Wang Xian interrupted her and said with a smile. Let's go then. Hu Yen-er nodded with a smile. Little brother, let's go. At the front seat, the great elder of the Huan celestial race greeted Wang Xian with a smile on his face. All right, thank you. Wang Xian looked at Hu Yen-er, nodded his head, and the 2 of them walked over. In the surroundings, everyone looked over from time to time. The group of disciples had already understood that the young man was no longer on the same level as them. Even Hu Yen-er had risen. Luckily, I didn't provoke that youth back then. If I had provoked him, I would have ended up in a miserable state. Hu Dongyang couldn't help but feel lucky. Luckily, he didn't lose his mind at that time. If he went to find trouble with that youth, then he would be in trouble. Everyone stepped into the array and headed towards the fallen immortal god island. Chapter 2182. 2182 Dragon Guard. The other shore planet was located at the furthest edge of the central region of the western region. Further east, there was a void of billions of kilometers. On the other side of the void, there was the central star region. When Wang Xian and the rest were teleported to the other shore planet, they were surrounded by people. Especially around the teleportation formation, there was one person every 2 to 3 meters. It was extremely crowded. There were also destroyed buildings at the side. Clearly, there was a conflict here just now. The fallen immortal island is located between the western region and the central region. We have to fly over. The great elder said to Wang Xian and the rest. Let's go. We have to rush over immediately. Our divine tiger dynasty has already occupied a position there. One of the princes said. Let's go, let's go. The group did not stay on the other shore planet and flew directly into the void. Around them, countless people also flew into the void. At a glance, the void was densely packed with people. Although the divine tomb is a great opportunity, those without strength or background who barge in will only become cannon fodder. A prince looked at the densely packed people around him, and a cold expression appeared on his face. If the opportunity is with us, we might be able to soar to the sky in one go. 3 of the 5 god lords of our boundless starfield have soared to the sky in the divine tomb. It's easier said than done if you want to reach the realm of eternal god lords step by step. The first elder said slowly. The surrounding gods nodded indifferently. Many people knew that they were just cannon fodder in the past, but they still went for it. Opportunities were usually obtained through fighting. There are at least 50 to 60 powerful factions gathered on the fallen immortal island. The number of unspecialized people might reach over 100 million. Our fox-pattern celestial race and the divine tiger dynasty are united and can barely be considered a first-rate faction. However, even so, we can't be ranked in the top 10 on the fallen immortal island. When we get there, we must keep a low profile. Hu Fei reminded Wang Xian, Hu Yan, Hu Ji, and the rest in a low voice. It's father. Hu Ji, Hu Yan, and the rest nodded their heads. The central region was the largest and strongest region among the 5 major regions. The eternal master who shook the central region was the 7-star master. However, the 7-star master occupied 1/5 of the central region. The rest of the region was divided among the major forces. With the appearance of the divine tomb, all the forces in the western region rushed in, and the forces in the central area came in full force. Who would miss the eternal divine master's divine tomb? The group quickly flew into the void. 10 minutes later, the first elder opened his divine kingdom and led them forward. Even so, it took them more than 10 hours to arrive. Is that the divine tomb? Close to the fallen immortal god island, Hu Yan widened her eyes and looked forward. In the void in front of them, there were many majestic and vast islands floating in the sky. There were more than 20 islands connected together. Looking from afar, it made one's heart palpitate. At this moment, there were numerous meteorites surrounding the 20 or so majestic islands. There were many people on each of the meteorites. Located in the center of the west, the closest place to the fallen immortal island, a continent with a radius of 1,000 kilometers floated in the center. Above this continent, there was a flag floating. The image of a 2-tailed divine fox. That was the eternal twin fox force that shook the western region. Its twin fox divine master, and even the only female divine master among the 5 great divine masters. The eternal twin foxes and the eternal 7 stars are already here. I wonder if the god lords from the other starfields are here. The first elder looked ahead and murmured. First elder, let's go there. A prince led the way and thousands of people flew toward a meteorite. There were many buildings on that huge meteorite. From time to time, sounds of battle could be heard from the surroundings. Some people were clashing with each other. The people ignored them and went directly to the meteorite. Go to the temporary residence first. All disciples wait for our orders. On the meteorite, there were people welcoming them. Young men wearing tiger-headed clothes led them toward the residence. The other gods walked toward a large hall in the center. Yen accompanied Xiao Xian. Hu Fei instructed his daughter. Okay. Hu Yen nodded her head and looked at Wang Xian, who was beside her. Wang Xian smiled and didn't say anything. He and Hu Yen walked towards a residence. The buildings on this meteorite naturally couldn't be compared to the living environment of the Hu-Wen celestial race. Each person had a room and it was slightly shabby. Can we contact the other clansmen? Wang Xian asked the 3 dragon guards. Dragon King, we can contact them. However, we can't contact the leader at the moment. The rest of our golden swordfish clansmen are located opposite us. It's not too far away. We can teleport over directly. The dragon guards replied. All right. Wang Xian nodded and went to the room next door to knock on Hu Yen's door. I have some matters to attend to. I'll be back in 4 to 5 hours at most. Wang Xian spoke directly before she opened the door. Then, Brother Wang Xian, be careful. Hu Yen opened the door quickly and said to him while looking at him. Don't worry. Wang Xian nodded at her and followed her into the room. Let's go. Wang Xian sensed the position of the dragon guards carefully and his figure disappeared instantly. But Wang Xian's figure appeared on a meteor. There were more than 2,000 people sitting cross-legged on the meteorite. A sword was suspended in front of them and it exuded a cold aura. The appearance of Wang Xian and the rest made everyone in the surroundings open their eyes. Waves of terrifying sword rays were suspended in the air. Greetings, Dragon King. The next moment, 2,000 figures sensed Wang Xian's aura. Their faces were burning hot as they immediately bowed to him. Get up. Wang Xian's gaze swept across the dragon guards and his face revealed a look of satisfaction. When he left, only 13 of the dragon guards had lit their divine flames. Now, there were 25 dragon guards who had lit their divine flames in the surroundings. However, the dragon guards were not very strong. The strongest one had only lit 4 wisps of divine fire. It's been hard on all of you for the past 3 years. Wang Xian looked at them and said slowly, We are like gold and iron horses, roaming the starry skies. I only hope that we can become qualified dragon guards. All the dragon guards roared in a low voice. In these 3 years, all of you have been able to reach such a level without the assistance of the Dragon Palace. It's very good. You guys should have collected a lot of resources, right? When I summon the Dragon Palace, you guys can enter the Dragon Palace and convert the resources into strength. Wang Xian spoke to them slowly. It's the Dragon King. The dragon guards nodded respectfully. All right, let's go in. Wang Xian's body trembled as the Dragon Palace slowly appeared. The dragon guards immediately entered the Dragon Palace. Prime Minister Gui, give me all the resources that the Dragon Palace has stored. Wang Xian stood on the meteorite and scanned his surroundings. He looked at the majestic aura and the vast divine tomb. At this moment, he had to expend a huge amount of resources to recover from his injuries. Chapter 2183. 2183 The Inheritance of the 2183 Divine Tomb. Phew! Wang Xian sat cross-legged on the meteorite and placed the divine herbs and pills into his mouth one by one. These resources were almost all accumulated by the Dragon Palace during this period of time. The injuries of the Thunder God Lord's sneak attack last time were too severe. Facing a God Lord, he didn't even have the chance to release his divine kingdom. A large amount of resources transformed into dragon energy and healed the injuries in his body. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Palace, the Dragon Guards had converted all the resources they had obtained over the past 3 years into their own strength. The improvement this time was definitely a metamorphosis for them. After 3 years of adventuring, they had lost almost 1/5 of the 2,500 dragon guards. One could imagine the cruelty of their training. I've finally recovered. 3 hours later, Wang Xian opened his eyes and revealed a smile. He stretched his body and scanned his surroundings. He picked an ordinary fetus fruit from the Dragon Palace. Taking an ordinary fetus fruit could improve a person's comprehension and spirituality. He scanned his surroundings and saw that there were many powerful forces around him. They were gathered by the major forces of the two regions. There were as many experts as the clouds, and the heavens chosen were dominating. Wang Wang. At this moment, the entire fallen immortal divine island in front of him suddenly trembled. Waves of majestic earth-attributed energy spread out in all directions. Roar, roar, roar. Suddenly, on the divine island in the center, a giant condensed from earth-attributed energy appeared in the sky above the divine island. Its roars shook the heavens and earth. What's going on? What happened at the divine tomb? Ever since the incident, no one seems to have been able to enter the divine tomb. The divine tomb has undergone a change. Could it be that they are able to enter the divine tomb? A shocked voice was heard. On the meteorites, many experts were flying toward the fallen immortal divine island. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. His eyes were sparkling as he stared at the giant phantom floating on the fallen immortal divine island. At the same time, figures were being expelled from the interior of the fallen immortal island. This situation is similar to the mountain tomb on Earth. A middle-aged man with a sharp sword in his hand was expelled. He frowned and his expression turned ugly. He was one of the first people to discover this divine tomb. However, he had been in there for nearly 2 months and was still unable to reach the central divine island. The inheritance was not his. In this situation, someone must have obtained the inheritance inside. He stared ahead quietly. "Brother Ao Jian, you came out too?" At this moment, an old man was expelled from the divine tomb a dozen kilometers away and said to him, "Yes." The middle-aged man was Ao Jian, who had entered the divine tomb ahead of time. He looked at the old man and nodded slowly. "I don't know why the divine tomb suddenly repelled us. Could it be that someone has obtained the inheritance inside?" The old man's eyes flickered. He stared ahead and tried to enter, but he helplessly shook his head. "I don't know. It's possible." Ao Jian said indifferently, "I believe Brother Ao Jian's harvest inside is not bad, right? Do you want to come to my sky-filling divine sect to sit?" The old man invited Ao Jian with a smile on his face. "No, I still have something to do." Ao Jian shook his head. Hee, that's good. In the future, I welcome Brother Ao Jian to our sect as a guest." The old man cupped his hands at him and left directly. Ao Jian's gaze swept around and saw countless experts flying over. His body moved and he quickly left. "Haha, I'm originally a speck of dust. No, I'm a mountain. I'm the chosen one. I'm the eternal God Lord. Ha!" At this moment, on the divine island in the center of the fallen immortal islands, a young man in high spirits stood in the middle of a large hall. He stared at the towering figure in front of him and could not help but laugh wildly. At this moment, he really wanted to dance happily and kiss the hand of the goddess of fate. He really wanted to float in the sky above the divine tomb and tell the world that everyone present here was trash, including the eternal lord of the boundless star field. They were all trash. Let me show you how the youngest god lord was born. Buzz buzz. On the meteorite, Wang Xian looked at the divine tomb in front of him. His heart suddenly stirred as he looked at a figure. Is he out? Wang Xian looked at the figure with a smile on his face. Ao Jian had also sensed Wang Xian's aura in front of him. He sped up and flew over. Dragon King. Upon seeing Wang Xian, Ao Jian immediately flew over with a smile on his face and knelt respectfully in front of him. Get up. What happened at the divine tomb? Wang Xian waved his hand at him and asked. Dragon King, this situation is similar to the situation on Earth. I suspect that someone has inherited the inheritance of the Eternal Lord. Ao Jian said with a twinkle in his eyes. Has someone inherited it? How are you doing in there? Did you gain anything? Wang Xian asked him. Dragon King, I have gained quite a lot. Ao Jian smiled. I have gained quite a lot in the past 3 years. Now, my Heartless Sword principle has been upgraded. I can fight 2 levels higher. Now, I have ignited 7 wisps of divine fire. The resources in your hands should be enough to upgrade 1 level. Enter the Dragon Palace first and increase your strength to the peak of the godly state. Wang Xian nodded in satisfaction and instructed him. It's the Dragon King. Ao Jian nodded his head and entered the Dragon Palace immediately. Looks like I've wasted my trip. Wang Xian looked at the divine tomb in front of him and shook his head slightly. The probability of obtaining the inheritance in the divine tomb was too low. Not only did he have to possess strength, but he also had to be chosen by the fallen god. It was almost impossible for a metal elemental cultivator to obtain the inheritance of the earth elemental divine tomb. Wang Xian looked at the time and instructed Prime Minister Gui, who was in the Dragon Palace of the Divine Kingdom. Then he teleported to where Hu Yen-er and the rest were. But when Wang Xian arrived, he noticed that there were about 7,000 to 8,000 disciples standing on the meteorite. They were looking at the location of the divine tomb. Wang Xian found Hu Yen-er's location and flew over with a smile. Brother Wang Xian, you're here. Hu Yen-er smiled when she saw Wang Xian arrive. Why are there so many people here? Wang Xian nodded at her and asked. A group of godly state experts from the Huan celestial race and the divine tiger dynasty went to check out the situation. We disciples are here to take a look. Hu Yen-er smiled and said. Come over for a moment. I have something for you. Wang Xian looked around and said to Hu Yen, What is it? Hu Yen-er's eyes sparkled as she said with a flushed face. Is it that mysterious young man who made the god of killing sword address him as his king? In the middle, a few divine sons and goddesses from the royal family of the divine tiger dynasty looked at Wang Xian and Hu Yen-er and asked softly to the side. Yes, the divine son. It's that young man. Hu Yen-er is able to reach the peak of the demigod realm because of him. Chapter 2184. 2184-2184 Godlord. The current Hu Yen-er could be considered somewhat famous in the entire Divine Tiger dynasty. She possessed the strength of a peak half-body at such a young age. In the entire Divine Tiger dynasty, she was definitely one of the best. In particular, she possessed the strength to defeat Duan Chengjian. She also possessed a fiancé with a mysterious and powerful identity. This made her quite famous among the core disciples of the Divine Tiger dynasty. Coupled with her beautiful face, she attracted the attention of many people. Some of the core divine sons of the Divine Tiger Empire were even tempted by her. However, after learning about her mysterious fiancé, they gave up on this idea. Some of the disciples looked at Wang Xian, whether intentionally or unintentionally, their eyes were sparkling. Consume this fruit. It will be helpful for your future cultivation. Wang Xian took out the fruit and passed it to Hu Yen-er. What kind of treasure is this? Hu Yen-er could feel the profound light and energy emitted from the fruit. The wood attribute in her body was restless as she raised her head to look at Wang Xian. Eat it. After you consume it, you should be able to ignite the divine fire in no time. Moreover, your future cultivation will be twice the result with half the effort. Wang Xian smiled at her. This is too precious. Why are you so good to me? Fox Smoke's son slightly lower the head, say to him in a low voice. You have saved my life, of course you must repay me. Wang Xian said with a smile all over his face. The fruit was placed next to her little face, and he motioned to her. Hu Yen-er slightly squint eyes, smile have a pair of tiger teeth, toward the service tire bite. The fruit melted in her mouth and entered his body directly. A majestic wood attribute energy surged in her body. Wang Xian waved his arm and brought the fruit into the room. He stood by the side and looked at her. Only Xiao Ran and Xiao Ran's younger sister had consumed the fruit before. However, both of them were not of the wood attribute. Consuming the fruit could only improve their perception, but it did not improve their spirituality. Spirituality was a wood attribute cultivator's control and perception of the wood attribute. The majestic wood attribute within the ordinary fruit would also be directly lost. Huar Duor had also consumed the ordinary fruit, and as a result, her strength had increased by a lot. Hu Yen'o was the same as Huar Kai. She was of the wood attribute and could absorb the energy within. The majestic wood attribute washed over her body, causing it to emit a jade-like luster. All the impurities in her body were removed. A natural aura was emitted from her body. Wang Xian slowly placed his palm on top of her head. The energy and aura of the ancestral tree poured into her body. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Hu Yen'er's body emitted a special sound. The wooden staff in her hand actually sprouted. A jade-like flower slowly grew out from the top of the wooden staff. A natural fragrance was emitted from her body. Special physique. Wang Xian's eyes were sparkling as he looked at Hu Yen'er. The transformation of the viviparous fruit, coupled with Wang Xian's continuous nurturing of Hu Yen'er's body with the ancestral tree during this period of time, had resulted in a huge change in her body today. He retracted his palm and sized her up. Around Hu Yen'er, green grass sprouted from the dead silence of the meteorite. 10 minutes later, Hu Yen'er slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Wang Xian in front of her with a smile on her face. When her smile bloomed, the wooden staff in her hand slowly bloomed. A flower bloomed with a smile. Ah! Hu Yen'er was stunned when she saw this scene. She stared at the staff in her hand in a daze. Following that, she sized up her body. Her face was filled with shock. Brother Wang Xian, why do I feel like I have undergone a huge change? Hu Yen'er touched her body with a face full of shock. She even scratched her emerald green tail with a slightly red face. Compared to the past, she had changed too much. In the past, she looked like a delicate little princess. Now, her temperament was like a goddess from the 9 heavens. This is a good thing. How long do you need before you can ignite the divine fire? Wang Xian asked her. I feel that I can ignite the divine fire now. Hu Yen'er's eyes sparkled as she said joyfully. All right, I will build a kingdom of God for you after some time. Wang Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. No, there's no need for that. Our Huan celestial race should have it. Hu Yen'er said with her head lowered. Her heart was filled with joy. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, terrifying rumbling sounds came from the location of the divine tomb. The meteorite that Wang Xian was on could not help but shake. Ha! Wang Xian grabbed Hu Yen'er's arm and stepped out of the room. He looked in the direction of the god's tomb. Oh my God, the eternal Lord has made his move. There's a Lord making his move. Hiss, look at those 3 figures. When they walked out of the room, they heard the exclamations of the disciples of the divine tiger dynasty coming from the front. Wang Xian looked over. When he saw the 3 figures in the sky that were emitting a vast and mighty aura, he narrowed his eyes slightly. In the void above the fallen immortal island, a mighty figure was standing in the sky. A divine fox with 2 tails had a body that was 10,000 meters tall. Her 2 tails were swaying and giving off a terrifying aura. A figure with 7 heavy meteorites on top of his head and a body that was giving off a heavy aura. Although it was only about 2 meters tall, it was like a mountain that was reflected in one's mind at a glance. The last one was an incomparably savage divine beast. It was a terrifying figure that was about 20,000 meters tall. Its entire body was covered in densely packed scales and it had 18 sharp claws. Its face was savage yet did not lose its dignity. 3 vast bodies were attacking the divine tomb below. Twin foxes, you and I will join hands and occupy this divine tomb. In the sky above the divine tomb, A voice suddenly came out from the mouth of the 7 meteors above. The voice was vast and mighty. Kiki what? 7-star, you dog, you still want to chase me away. Do you want to see if this fox beauty dares to offend a god lord for no reason? The huge and savage figure shouted wantonly. A few days ago, there was a rumor that a god lord was born in the Sea of No Seal. It seems that it is true. However, I will not interfere in the grudge between the two of you. If you two have any grudges, you might as well go to the void and have a great battle. Double Fox Godmaster said coldly. Her 2 gigantic tails swayed. One of them was fiery red while the other was emerald green. Streams of energy directly blasted towards the god tomb below. Ka. The energy in the sky above a god island was destroyed. Her body moved and she directly flew downwards. Humph! The 7-star god lord, who had 7 meteorites above his head, snorted lightly. He glanced coldly at the huge and ferocious creature, and his eyes fell on the divine island in the middle. He waved his arm, and streams of terrifying energy landed on the main island. Hee. That terrifying creature was naturally Ao Crab, who had left the Dragon Palace. Ao Crab originally had the strength of a peak godly state. Now that 3 years had passed, the boundless sea had been ruled by him, and his strength had risen to the realm of an eternal god lord. Chapter 2185. 2185 2185 Godlord's Disciple. Ao Crab's rise had the greatest impact on the 7-star God Lord, who was also located in the central region. Especially after the explosion in the divine tomb, there was an eternal 7-star god who provoked Ao Crab. Ao Crab directly killed him. After the 7-star God Lord learned about it, he was extremely furious and immediately made a move to punish Ao Crab. But in the end, Ao Crab directly exploded with the strength of an eternal God Lord, making the 7-star God Lord's face extremely ugly. God Lord, the central region has actually given birth to a God Lord. Within a radius of tens of millions of kilometers, hundreds of millions of people heard the sound in the sky above the fallen immortal God Island. When they saw the vast and unfamiliar figure, their faces revealed shocked expressions. The birth of a God Lord was a huge matter for the entire boundless star field. The appearance of a God Lord could even change the entire boundless star field structure. Boom, boom, boom. On the main island of the fallen immortal God Islands, 7-star God Lord's attack landed on the island, causing a tremendous tremor. However, after the attack, the main island didn't suffer the slightest bit of damage. An enormous amount of energy blocked his attack. 1-star fall. 7-star God Lord's gaze focused, and a meteorite behind him directly smashed downwards. Boom, boom, boom. A huge tremor was felt once again. The strong airwaves caused the meteorites to fly backwards. Even the meteorites where Wang Xian and the rest were flying towards the void behind them. Be careful! The meteorites in front are crashing towards us. The exclamations of the disciples could be heard from the front. Wang Xian held onto Hu Yenner as he looked towards the sky above the divine tomb in a daze. The attack of the 7 stars divine lord still failed to break through the defense of the divine tomb. Kiki, it seems like this divine lord who died in the past is very powerful. Ao Crab looked over and laughed out loud. He bent down and attacked the divine island at the side. The huge dragon claw broke through the defense in the sky and Ao Crab successfully entered the divine tomb. The 7-star divine master revealed an unwilling expression and turned to attack the divine islands at the side. Soon, the 3 divine masters entered the divine islands one by one. Ao Crab has become a divine master. Wang Xian looked at this scene from afar and smiled. Once he became a divine master, the world would definitely be shocked. Bang! At this moment, the sound of collision was heard. Wang Xian looked ahead and saw a meteorite colliding with their meteorite. Under the intense collision, some buildings began to collapse. On the meteorite in front, there were also thousands of disciples standing there. The collision of the two meteorites did not cause a fight among the disciples. Instead, they started to communicate with each other. Yen, I'm going to take care of some things. At this moment, Wang Xian had a thought and said to Hu Yen, "Oh." Hu Yen nodded her head slightly and watched him leave. "Brother Wang Xian and I, are we from the same world?" Looking at Wang Xian's figure, she muttered to herself, "Sister, come here. Let's go. We'll go to the eternal twin foxes continent with the divine son of deity and the disciples of the frigid heaven divine sect." I heard from the disciples of the frigid heaven divine sect that, "Sister, what's wrong with your aura?" At this moment, Hu Ji flew over. When he saw Hu Yen, he was suddenly stunned. He widened his eyes and stared at his little sister in disbelief. "What's wrong, brother?" Hu Yen looked at her brother in astonishment. "Little sister, the aura on your body, why do I feel that it's very comfortable to look at you, and I feel that you've become many times more beautiful?" Hu Ji widened his eyes and tilted his head as he said in disbelief, "Is that so? Hee, all right brother, let's go." Hu Yen walked over and pulled on his arm as she said with a smile, "What a natural aura. Little sister, what's wrong with your body? How could there be such a huge change? I feel that the aura on your body has changed a lot." Hu Ji could not help but say. Hu Yen blinked her eyes and smiled, but did not answer him. Brother Hu Dongcheng, this lady is so beautiful. This is?" When Hu Ji brought Hu Yen to the front. In the middle of a group of people, a handsome young man saw Hu Yen and the others walking over. His eyes lit up and stared at her. The young man known as Hu Dongcheng followed his gaze and looked over. When he saw Hu Yen, he was stunned. If Hu Yen was considered a rare beauty in the past, then the Hu Yen in front of him was so beautiful that it was suffocating. His heart beat violently. He felt that Hu Yen was even more beautiful than before. "Brother Shui, don't even think about it. This is Hu Yen. She has the strength of a peak stage demigod, but she already has a fiancé." He could not help but look at Hu Yen a few more times. The greed in his heart flashed past. However, this greed was quickly thrown to the back of his mind. If Hu Yen's fiancé was an ordinary disciple, he might even snatch him away. However, there was still no need to provoke that mysterious youth. That's really too regretful. A disappointed expression appeared on the youth's face as he shook his head regretfully. However, he still walked over with a smile on his face. "Hello, miss. I'm Shui Qinglu from the Frost Sky Divine Sect." "Oh, hello." Hu Yen was slightly stunned when she saw a youth walking towards her. She then said with a smile, "Unfortunately, Miss already has a fiancé. If you don't have one, I might still have a chance." "Ha." Shui Qinglu said with unconcealed admiration. "Sister Hu Yen, this is the young sect master of the frigid sky divine sect, the chosen divine son who is about to ignite the divine fire." Hu Dongyang walked over and introduced Hu Yen with a smile on his face. Hu Yen smiled and nodded at them. Her smile caused the surrounding youths to pause once again, and their faces were slightly embarrassed. With their status, very few women could make them lose their focus. So beautiful. At the side, Gu Xiaoyan could not help but mutter softly as he watched Hu Yen's temperament change drastically. Her every frown and smile was eye-catching. He suddenly regretted that if he had not broken off the engagement at that time. Gu Xiaoyan. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly entered his ears. His expression changed and he quickly turned around to coax him. "Let's go, brother Shui. Let's go to the eternal twin foxes continent. I want to see if I can buy any treasures there." Hu Dongxing said to the disciples of the Frost Sky Divine Sect with a smile. "All right, let's go." The elite disciples of the Frost Sky Divine Sect and the disciples of the Divine Tiger Dynasty flew towards the front of the Divine Tomb. The Eternal Twin Fox continent was a man-made continent that the Eternal Twin Fox had directly sent over. On this continent, There were all kinds of buildings such as restaurants and auctions. It was completely incomparable to the meteorites occupied by the various factions. The Twin Fox continent was open to everyone, and there were many unaffiliated people living on it. Chapter 2186. 2186 2186 Godlord's Disciple. In the Western region, the Divine Tiger Dynasty and the Divine Frost sect were considered to be among the top 5 powers. The Divine Tiger Dynasty and the Huwen celestial race were united. The current empress of the Divine Tiger Dynasty came from the Huwen celestial race. At the same time, this empress was also the strongest expert of the Huwen celestial race, an existence at the peak of the deity realm. Even the current Tiger Emperor of the Divine Tiger Dynasty respected his wife very much. A group of more than 20 core disciples were strolling around the Twin Fox continent, buying one item after another. "Little sister, I've benefited from you this time." Hu Ji followed by the side and whispered to Hu Yen. He. Hu Yen smiled at him. "Little sister, how can your strength increase so quickly? See if you can get brother-in-law to help me increase my strength in the future." Hu Ji continued to say with a smile. "Brother, what nonsense are you talking about? You know that we are not real." Hu Yen's face turned slightly red as she turned to the side and said, I don't think so. Look at how good that Wang Xian is to you. My little sister is at least a great beauty. Look around you. Out of the 10 men who passed by, 9 of them were attracted to you. They couldn't help but take a second look at you." Hu Ji said proudly. "Is that so?" Hu Yen's eyes flickered. No one knew what she was thinking. "Let's go to the front. There is a famous Taba area in the Double Fox continent. If we are lucky, we might be able to encounter a powerful divine artifact. I also want to buy some items to prepare for building my own divine kingdom." As Shui Qinglu said that, he walked inside with a smile on his face. The group followed from left to right as they walked forward. In front of them was a bustling street with luxurious shops on both sides. The group strolled along the street. Hu Yen, who had undergone the cleansing of her body and the ancestral tree, now possessed a special constitution. Among the group, she was like a dazzling star that attracted the attention of many wherever she went. Especially for wood element cultivators, her aura made wood element cultivators extremely comfortable. This Ling Hu Yen was slightly uncomfortable and kept her head down. "Big brother, look that beauty down there." While Hu Yen'er and the others were strolling on the street. In a restaurant on the 2nd floor near the window, a young man suddenly looked down with shining eyes and said to a young man next to him, "Third brother, what kind of beauty have you not seen before? Make a fuss over nothing." The young man opposite shook his head slightly and said with a smile, "It's not the same. This beauty is really different. Not only is she more beautiful than the one I saw before, the most important thing is her temperament." The young man stared down without blinking and said with burning eyes, "Huh?" The young man beside him looked at him in surprise as he curiously looked down. When he saw Hu Yen'er below, he was slightly stunned. "It's indeed different." He narrowed his eyes slightly as his eyes flickered with a burning luster. "Let's go down and get to know each other." The young man immediately stood up and walked down. "Oh, big brother? Big brother, I took a fancy to her first." The young man said with a bitter face and quickly followed. The young man at the side looked at the 2 young masters with a shocked expression. What kind of woman can attract the attention of the 2 young masters of Eternal Twin Fox? They were slightly stunned and immediately stood up to follow behind. "Damn it, I can't get in." At the same time, a vast figure flew out from a divine island at the position of the deity tomb of fallen immortal God Island. She let out a low growl with an embarrassed expression. Her figure moved and floated in the void next to her. "Lord God Lord." 7 or 8 peak God realm experts immediately flew over respectfully from the side and shouted, "Let's go back first." Double Fox Godlord's figure moved and transformed into a beautiful woman filled with majesty. She frowned and said with a somewhat unpleasant expression. Her figure flickered and she flew directly toward Double Fox Continent. Double Fox Godlord has come out. She shouldn't have entered the main God Island. I heard that before we arrived, there were already people who discovered this place. There were also people who entered, but they didn't enter the main God Island. There were at least 1,000 to 2,000 deity realm experts in the surroundings. When they saw the Double Fox Godlord coming out, all of them were discussing in shock. In the sky above the Double Fox Continent, the Double Fox Godlord flew over with an unpleasant expression. All of a sudden, she sensed a special aura. This aura caused the wood attribute foxtail behind her to move slightly. This situation caused her to be slightly stunned. Her face was filled with astonishment. What treasure attracted me? Her mind moved and her gaze looked down. When she saw the beautiful figure below, she sensed the aura on her body, and her eyes shot out an intense light. What a terrifying wood attribute energy! What is this? A powerful special wood attribute constitution, there is absolutely no mistake. What a pure wood attribute! If nurtured, the lowest peak of the divine realm can even reach the eternal divine Lord realm. Her eyes revealed a fiery expression. Hello, this beauty, I am Divine Fox Knight. Below, Hu Yen'er's face was filled with astonishment as she looked at the few young men who had suddenly appeared in front of them, frowning slightly. Beside them, Shui Qing Lu and Hu Dongcheng were staring at the few people in front of them with displeasure. But when they heard the name of that young man, they were slightly startled. Divine Fox Knight? Shui Qing Lu's pupils constricted slightly as he muttered in a low voice. Hurry up and pay respects to our young Master Yi. A young man beside him shouted indifferently. Shut up. However, just as that young man's words fell, Divine Fox Knight shouted at him lightly. He looked at Hu Yen'er with a smile on his face. I fell in love with you at first sight. I want to get to know you. Divine Fox Knight smiled and stretched out his hand. He spoke very frankly. With his status, there was no need to beat around the bush. Boom! At this moment, a vast light enveloped this place. Divine Fox Knight, who had stretched out his hand, was slightly stunned. Everyone immediately raised their heads and looked up. Young lady, your talent is not bad. This god is willing to take you in as a disciple. At that moment, a voice sounded. Hu Yen'er saw that the people who appeared one after another were in a daze. When she saw the beautiful woman with 2 foxtails in the sky, she was slightly shocked. Following that, she could not help but widen her eyes. Greetings, Lord God. At the side, when the young men of Divine Fox Knight saw the beautiful woman in the sky, their bodies trembled. They immediately knelt down and greeted loudly. Greetings, Lord God Dual Fox. Shui Qing Lu, Hu Dongcheng, Hu Dongyang, and the others also knelt on the ground with shocked faces and shouted loudly. Only Hu Yen'er stood there in a daze. Follow me. I, Dual Fox, have never taken in a disciple in my life. You are the first. Double Fox Godlord slightly waved his hands. A ball of light enveloped Hu Yen'er, making her fly to his side. Chapter 2187. 2187. He was not qualified. Double Fox Godlord. The sky above Double Fox Continent was surrounded by a ball of energy. Hu Yen'er, who was standing beside Double Fox Godlord, was slightly absent-minded. She looked at the Godlord in front of her with a face full of shock, and her voice trembled slightly. You can call me Master in the future. Come with me. Double Fox Godlord looked at Hu Yen'er in front of him with excitement, his face full of surprise. Pleasant surprise, completely pleasant surprise. This time, although she did not enter the divine tomb of the fallen immortal island, she met a disciple with such a strong physique. This was a good thing for the eternal Double Fox. Hu Yen'er looked at Double Fox Master in a daze, her mind was blank. Double Fox Master actually wanted to take her as a disciple. She couldn't believe it. This was the God Master. What? Lord God Master actually wants to take that girl in as a disciple. Oh my God, our Lord God Master Twin Fox actually wants to take that girl in as a disciple. God Master Twin Fox has never taken in a disciple. That girl became Lord God Master's only disciple. This is a complete leap to the heavens. Below, everyone saw God Master Twin Fox kneeling respectfully on the ground. When they heard God Master Twin Fox's words, their faces were filled with shock. They raised their heads and looked at Hu Yen-er with envy and shock. The God Master actually wants to take in that girl as his disciple. God Fox Knight and the other Eternal Twin Fox Core disciples also revealed shocked expressions when they saw this scene. They had never expected that the woman they wanted to strike up a conversation with would actually become the disciple of their Lord God. The disciples of the Tiger God Dynasty, the Frost Sky Divine Sect, and the Foxmark Divine Clan were all looking at this scene in shock. Hu Yen-er had actually been taken in as a disciple by the Twin Fox Godlord. This was a complete leap to the heavens. With that, the entire Fox Pattern Divine Clan would become a famous divine clan in the entire Endless Star area. The Fox Pattern Divine Clan would rise quickly. After all, this was the first disciple of the Double Fox Godlord. Let's go. The Double Fox Godlord said to Hu Yen-er with a smile on his face. His body moved, and he disappeared with her in an instant. Everyone looked down in astonishment. That beauty is a member of your family? Seeing the Godlord leave, God Fox Knight and the others slowly stood up and asked Shui Qinglu who was beside them. No, young Master Yi, she is a member of the Foxmark Divine Clan. Shui Qinglu hurriedly said. Young Master Yi, she is my younger sister. We are from the Foxmark Divine Clan. Hu Ji was smiling from the side. Oh, your biological younger sister? This brother, I am God Fox Knight, the Eternal Double Fox Core disciple. Can this brother introduce your younger sister? Divine Fox Knight looked at Hu Ji and said politely, I don't dare. Hu Ji had heard of Divine Fox Knight's name. Seeing her polite expression, he hurriedly said, My sister's name is Hu Yen. She is 30 years old this year. Her strength is at the peak of half a body. He continued to say, At 30 years old, in the Endless Star field, it was too much to call her a young girl. Hu Yen-er. Hu Yi muttered and remembered this name. Young Master Yi, Miss Hu Yen-er already has a fiancé. At this moment, Princess Tian Ran, who was standing at the side, suddenly said, Hu Ye's pupils slightly shrank as he looked at Hu Ji. Young Master Yi, my sister already has a marriage contract. The reason why she can rise to the peak of half a body is also because of that brother-in-law of mine. Hu Ji frowned slightly and quickly replied with a smile. Let's not talk about other things. This brother, congratulations to your sister for being accepted as a disciple by the Lord God. In the future, one person will be able to control 10,000 people. This brother, you should call your family over. I believe that very soon, our Eternal Twin Fox transformations will invite your friends from the Foxmark Divine Clan. Divine Fox Yi suddenly laughed loudly and said to Hu Ji with a smile. Yes. Hu Ji's face revealed an excited expression as he immediately nodded. The Foxmark celestial race would definitely rise in power after the Twin Fox Godlord took his sister as his disciple. Hu Dongyang and the others were also filled with excitement. The Divine Tiger God Dynasty's Frost Sky celestial sect looked on with envy. The Foxmark celestial race could be said to have reached the sky in one step. Brother Hu Ji, let's go. We will immediately inform the seniors of the Foxmark celestial race. Everyone left excitedly. She actually has a fiancé? Seeing Hu Ji and the others leave, a young man next to Divine Fox Knight frowned slightly. To be chosen by the Lord Godlord and taken in as a disciple, her talent must be very terrifying. Who knows, She might be able to step into the eternal God Lord realm in the future. That fiancé of hers is really lucky. The young man continued to say with slight displeasure, that fiancé of his is not worthy of the disciple of the double fox master god. God Fox Knight said with a somewhat ugly expression. He looked in the direction of the center of the double fox continent and said, "Let's go back. Yenna, right? Sit, don't be restrained." At this moment, in a room at the center of the double fox continent, the double fox master god said to Hu Yen with a smile on his face, "It's Lord God Master." Hu Yen nodded with a restrained expression. "Don't be restrained. Just call me Master from now on. From now on, the eternal Twin Fox will be your home." Twin Fox God Master said with a smile on her face. With a wave of her arm, a cup of tea appeared in front of her. "I haven't adapted to it yet." Hu Yen said nervously. It's fine, it's fine." Double Fox God Lord shook his head with a smile on his face and looked at her body. "With your current physique, I'm really regretful. If I had met you earlier, you would already be a top-tier expert. But it's not too late now. Under my nurturing in the future, you have a very high chance of inheriting my mantle and inheriting the eternal double fox. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, you have the strongest physique that I have ever seen." The god of twin foxes was not stingy with his praise. Physique? Hu Yen was stunned when she heard the god of twin foxes' words. She recalled the changes in her body. However, she knew that the changes in her body were all due to Brother Wang Xian. It was only after Brother Wang Xian gave her the fruit that her physique underwent such a huge change. "My physique is because of Brother Wang Xian. My strength was also improved by Brother Wang Xian." Hu Yen said softly. "Huh." The double fox god lord was slightly stunned. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes. It's extremely difficult to change one's physique. Unless there are heaven-defying treasures or the inheritance of a strong person, everyone's physique is fixed from birth. Your physique should be hidden. It has been guided out. By the way, who is your brother Wang Xian to you?" She asked Hu Yen calmly. "Brother Wang Xian is Yen fiancé." Hu Yen whispered with her face flushed red. "Fiancé?" The dual fox god raised her eyebrows slightly as her eyes flickered. Chapter 2188 2188 He was not qualified. "Yen, these are some cultivation techniques and some information. Take a look here. I'll get someone to inform the members of the fox pattern celestial race." "Yes, Master." As she watched the back of the double fox god lord disappear, Hu Yen looked at the information on the secret manual beside her and sized up her own body. "My physique is obviously very ordinary. It was only improved after Brother Wang Xian gave me that fruit. The fruit that Brother Wang Xian gave me must be a powerful divine fruit. It's better if I don't tell Master." Hu Yen looked ahead in a daze as she thought to herself. Although it was a great opportunity for her to be taken in as a disciple by a god, in her opinion, Brother Wang Xian was still more important. Some things had to be kept a secret, even if she was the disciple of the dual fox god in the future. "Men!" The master of twin foxes came to a large hall and shouted at the surroundings. "Master of God, what are your orders?" Soon, an elder walked in and greeted respectfully. "Call the people from Yen Air's family over. Also, check some information about her, especially the situation of her fiancé." The master of twin foxes instructed the elder. "It's Lord God Master." The old man immediately nodded and walked out. "She has a fiancé?" Double Fox God Master muttered and frowned slightly. She had taken in a female disciple. As a woman, she knew girls very well. If her disciple became an eternal God Master in the future and her fiancé was the master, how could the eternal double fox agree to it? She took in a disciple so that the eternal twin foxes could continue to live on. But Yen is still a virgin. It's easy to solve. Soon, the twin fox godlord's brows relaxed and he murmured faintly. The twin fox godlord has taken in a disciple. A girl from the fox-marked celestial race has been taken in as a personal disciple by the twin fox godlord. The twin fox godlord's first disciple. Hiss, that girl called Hu Yen has soared into the sky. Now the entire fox-marked celestial race has struck it rich. Double Fox Godlord's personal disciple. The news of Double Fox Godlord accepting a disciple quickly spread across the entire Double Fox continent and spread in all directions. Countless factions had already gathered around the fallen immortal God Island. This shocking news spread out at a terrifying speed. Soon, all the factions in the western region received this news. What? Yen has been taken in as a disciple by the dual Fox Godlord. However, at this moment, the Huan celestial race and the Divine Tiger Dynasty's group of deity realm experts looked at Hu Ji and the other youths in shock. Yes, Father, First Elder, my lords. Yen has been taken away by the dual Fox Godlord. Presumably, the eternal dual Fox experts will come and inform us soon. Hu Ji nodded excitedly. Hu Dongyang and Hu Dongqing's disciples also nodded heavily. Good. My daughter has been taken in as a disciple by the Godmaster. Ha, good. Our disciples of the Fox-marked celestial race have been taken in as personal disciples by the Godmaster. Our Fox-marked celestial race is going to rise up. Hu Fei and the experts of the Huan celestial race also revealed excited expressions. They knew what it meant for Hu Yen to be taken in as a disciple by the Lord God. Congratulations to the Huan celestial race. The gods of the Divine Tiger Dynasty said with envious expressions. I'll go inform the Tiger Emperor and the Empress right away. A lord of the Divine Tiger Dynasty immediately said. The Huan celestial race and the Divine Tiger Dynasty were like branches. If Hu Yen was taken in as a disciple by the God Lord, the Divine Tiger Dynasty would also be able to obtain some benefits. Moreover, at this time, with such a major matter, he had to immediately inform the Tiger Emperor and the Empress. He believed that they would rush over as quickly as possible. Whoosh! At this time, 5 eternal Double Fox experts flew over. Each of the 5 elders was at the peak of the godly state. They knew what it meant for the eternal God Lord to take in disciples. It meant that Hu Yen might be the future successor of the eternal twin foxes. They were naturally very cautious when facing Hu Yen-er's clansmen. You should be friends of the fox-patterned divine clan, right? A peak of the godly state expert flew over and cupped his hands towards the fox-patterned divine clan with a smile on his face. Sir, we are. The fox-patterned god clan and the divine tiger god dynasty looked at the 5 old men's clothes and sensed their power. They quickly responded respectfully. There's no need to be so polite. Congratulations to the fox-patterned god clan's disciple for becoming the personal disciple of our Lord Double Fox Godlord. Our Lord Godlord invites all of you to be his guests. The 5 peak god realm elders said politely. The God Realm experts of the Fox-patterned God clan and the Divine Tiger Dynasty were all excited when they saw this scene. Thank you, sirs, for coming to report this. This is our Fox-patterned God clan's honor. The first elder of the Fox-patterned God clan hurriedly said. All right, let's go. The 5 peak God Realm experts nodded and led them toward the Double Fox continent. When the surrounding factions saw this scene, they looked at the members of the fox-patterned celestial race with envy. Wang Xian, who was located at the eastern side of the fallen immortal island, did not know that due to the change in Hu Yen'er's physique, a master god had taken her in as his personal disciple. He stood on a meteorite and looked at the group of dragon guards in front of him with a smile on his face. There were over 2,000 dragon guards. The fallen dragon guards were being revived. Among the 2,000 dragon guards in front of him, there were 30 who had ignited the divine fire, and 50 who had reached the peak of the demigod realm and had the combat strength of the god realm. That was to say, there were about 80 dragon guards who had the combat strength of the god realm. Basically, All the dragon guards had risen by a level. Ao Jian now had the combat strength of the peak of the god realm. Together with Ao Qitian and Ao Qi, there were 8 peak of the god realm in the dragon palace. One of them was an ardent dark demon dragon that was infinitely close to the god lord realm. Furthermore, he was Ao he who was fighting against the eternal divine lord. After we return this time, bring Ao he back with us. Then we will go to the eternal thunderclap. It would be best if we can kill him. Wang Xian mumbled to himself. Ao Jian, wait for Ao he to come out. You guys will meet up with him first. Wang Xian instructed Ao he who was beside him. It's the Dragon King. Ao Crab nodded his head. Wang Xian nodded his head. Then his body moved and he flew towards the west. He left one after another. Hu Yen thought that he was going to leave. It had been a few hours. It was time for him to go back and take a look. When he thought of Hu Yen, Wang Xian revealed a smile on his face. When Wang Xian arrived at the meteorite, he realized that there was no one else on it. He was stunned for a moment. Then, he frowned slowly and looked around. TSK, that woman from the fox pattern celestial race is really lucky. She was actually taken in as a personal disciple by the master of double fox celestial race. The master of double fox celestial race must have taken a liking to Hu Yen-er's talent. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken her in as his disciple for no reason. At this moment, there were faint discussions coming from the surroundings. Wang Xian raised his eyebrows. Chapter 2189. 2189. He was not qualified to accept it. The master of double fox has taken Yen-er as his disciple. Wang Xian listened to the faint voices around him and raised his eyebrows slightly. With Yen-er's current talent, it might not be impossible for the master of fox to take her as his disciple. He mumbled to himself. After consuming the fruit of the womb, coupled with the nurturing of the ancestral tree, her potential and talent had reached a terrifying level. This was a good thing. Buzz buzz. At this moment, the communication stone on his body trembled. When Wang Xian saw the information on it, a smile appeared on his face. It was Hu Yen-er who sent him a message telling him that she was on the Twin Fox continent and that she wanted him to look for her here. Let's go. Wang Xian smiled and looked at the Twin Fox continent in front of him. His body moved and he flew up. After entering the Twin Fox continent, Wang Xian looked at the center and walked straight towards it. In the center of the continent, there was an incomparably majestic hall. In the sky above the central hall, there was a double-tailed divine fox statue. This was the statue of the eternal twin foxes. The eternal twin foxes possessed the bloodline of the twin-tailed divine fox. This was an extremely high-level bloodline. The disciples of the eternal twin foxes could choose to cultivate the wood or fire attributes. The improvement speed was extremely fast. The current divine master of the twin foxes had cultivated both the wood and fire attributes at the same time. He had broken through the limitations of his bloodline and reached the realm of the eternal divine master. However, throughout history, only the divine master of the twin foxes had cultivated 2 attributes and reached the realm of the divine master. Stop. Outsiders are prohibited from entering the divine fox hall. When Wang Xian arrived at the entrance of the hall, the guards at the entrance stared at him coldly. My apologies, both of you. This is a member of the fox pattern celestial race. At this moment, Hu Ji walked into the main hall with a smile on his face. So you are a brother of the fox pattern celestial race. Please come in, please come in. When the 2 guards at the entrance saw Hu Ji, they immediately said with a smile on their faces. By now, everyone in the dual fox celestial race knew that their master had taken in a disciple. As the only disciple of the master of the dual fox celestial race, they would definitely become the nobles of the eternal dual fox celestial race in the future. Naturally, they had to be careful. Brother-in-law, come, come. Hu Ji rushed forward and greeted Wang Xian enthusiastically. Okay. Wang Xian nodded and walked over with a smile on his face. Brother-in-law, did you know that the master of the dual fox celestial race has taken in Yen Er as his disciple? Her only disciple. Let's go to the main hall now. I reckon that Master Dual Fox will receive us personally in a while. Hu Ji was obviously very excited as he spoke to Wang Xian and brought him inside. It's Yen Er's good fortune to be able to become Master Dual Fox's disciple. Wang Xian said with a smile. Brother-in-law, Yen Er has become Master Dual Fox's disciple. In the future, no one will dare to offend you in the western region. Recently, Yen Er was worried that she wasn't good enough for you. Now, there's no need to worry. How about it, brother-in-law? I know that your identity is mysterious, but my sister isn't bad either. Hu Ji said to Wang Xian with a smile on his face. You and Yen Er saved my life back then. There's no such thing as an identity. Wang Xian shook his head. Let's go. Hu Ji didn't say too much. He knew that his sister liked the young man in front of her. Hu Ji was 100% satisfied with Wang Xian. The two of them soon arrived at a large hall. At this moment, a group of godly state experts from the Huwen celestial race and the divine tiger dynasty were sitting in the hall. A group of disciples were standing at the side. 4 people were sitting in the middle. Hu Fei, Hu Yen Er's grandfather. On the other side was a graceful and elegant woman, a middle-aged man with a dignified face. These 2 people were the current Tiger Emperor and Empress of the Divine Tiger Dynasty. The Empress was a member of the Huwen celestial race, and at the same time, she was the strongest expert of the Huwen celestial race. After they received Hu Yen Er as a disciple of the dual fox god lord, they immediately gave up all their matters and rushed over in just half an hour. At this moment, Hu Yen Er stood in front of the 4 of them. Regardless of whether it was Hu Fei or Hu Yen Er's grandfather, their faces were filled with gratified and happy smiles. The Tiger Emperor and Empress of the Divine Tiger Dynasty looked at Hu Yen Er with smiles on their faces. Yen, this emperor has decided to confer you the title of Princess Changtian of the Divine Tiger Dynasty. You can mobilize all the armies of the Divine Tiger Dynasty. In this Divine Dynasty, wherever you go, I will personally come. The Tiger Emperor of the Divine Tiger Dynasty waved his hand and directly conferred the title to Hu Yen. Thank you, Your Majesty. Hu Yen Er hurriedly expressed her gratitude. This right to confer the title was almost a disguised declaration of a second emperor. However, the Tiger Emperor also knew that in the future, Hu Yen Er's right, even if she did not confer the title of Princess Changtian, could still cover the sky of the Divine Tiger Dynasty with one hand. In fact, she could even cover the sky of the entire western region in the future. Hu Yen Er is really beautiful. Foster mother doesn't have anything good, so I'll accept a small gift. This is something that our Fox Mark God clan's old patriarch personally passed down to foster mother. Now, foster mother will pass it down to you. The Empress smiled as she took out a precious divine artifact and placed it in Hu Yen Er's hand. Thank you, foster mother. Hu Yen Er lowered her head and said hurriedly. She didn't expect her status to change so quickly. Even the strongest expert of her celestial race, the Tiger Emperor of the Divine Tiger Dynasty, was trying to curry favor with her. Sister, brother-in-law is here. Hu Ji, who had just walked in, saw this scene. His face was filled with pride as he spoke to Hu Yen. Brother Wang Xian. Hu Yen immediately turned her head. When she saw Wang Xian, her face was filled with joy. She immediately ran towards Wang Xian. When the Tiger Emperor and Empress saw this scene, they raised their eyebrows slightly. Brother Wang Xian. Hu Yen ran over with a smile on her face. Congratulations, you have been accepted as a disciple by the dual fox god. Wang Xian congratulated her with a smile on his face. All of this is because of brother Wang Xian. Hu Yen said softly. That is also your opportunity. Wang Xian shook his head. Xiao Xian. Hu Fei and Hu Yenner's grandfather saw him walking over and greeted him in a good mood. Hua hua hua. Welcome, all of you from the Foxmark celestial race to our eternal dual foxes. At this moment, a voice came from outside as people walked over one by one. The Tiger Emperor and the Empress who were sitting in the center looked at the people who came over with shocked expressions. They quickly stood up to welcome them. Everyone, don't be restrained. We will be a family from now on. An expert at the peak of the eternal twin-tailed divine realm looked at the entire hall and said with a smile. The eyes of the over 30 people who came swept across everyone in the hall and landed on Hu Yen. When some of the young disciples and even middle-aged men saw Hu Yen-er's face and temperament, a hint of astonishment appeared on their faces. That guy should be Hu Yen-er's fiancé. Shen Huyi and the rest of the young men followed behind. One of the young men looked at Hu Yen-er who was standing beside Wang Xian with a flushed face and said softly to Shen Huyi, "Timsh him? He is not qualified yet. He is not worthy." A hint of jealousy flashed across Hu Yenner's eyes as she said coldly. Chapter 2190. 2190 Assassinate 2190. Whether she is worthy or not is not up to us. She is the only disciple of our Lord Godlord. In the future, her status will be even higher than ours. A young man glanced at Divine Fox Knight and said indifferently, "If I say she is not worthy, then she is not worthy." Divine Fox Knight heard a young man's retort and looked at him coldly. The young man opened his mouth but didn't dare to say anything. "Don't talk nonsense." The few of them whispered to each other, causing an old man in front to turn his head and remind him indifferently. The core disciples of the eternal twin foxes quickly shut their mouths. "Little Yi, do you like this disciple of the Godlord?" The old man looked at Divine Fox Knight and transmitted his voice. "Oh." Divine Fox Knight was slightly stunned. He looked at the old man and immediately lowered his head. "Great-grandfather, He. The old man smiled and did not speak. Shenhuyi slowly raised his head. His eyes were shining. When he looked at Hu Yen, he was filled with a strong desire. Once he could obtain her, he would be able to control her beauty and power. This is Miss Hu Yen, right? Congratulations, congratulations. In the future, you will be the young princess of our eternal twin foxes." 7 or 8 peak divine realm experts directly bowed to Hu Yen and said with a smile, I don't dare. My lords, you don't have to be so polite." Hu Yen saw that they were so respectful and hurriedly said, Miss Hu Yen, we are the elder group of the eternal twin foxes. If you have any needs in the future, you can directly tell us. We will definitely settle it for you. They shook their heads and said with a trace of respect, Yes. Thank you. Thank you, grandfathers. Hu Yen replied politely. When the people from the Foxmark Divine Clan and the Divine Tiger Dynasty saw the eternal twin foxes treating Hu Yen so respectfully, their faces were filled with smiles. But at this moment, a figure appeared out of thin air in the middle of the hall. Greetings, Master Double Fox. When the crowd saw this, they immediately got ready to kneel down. There's no need. Master Double Fox waved her arm and a surge of energy stopped them. She looked at Hu Yen with a smile on her face. When she swept her gaze past Wang Xian, her eyes flickered slightly. For wisps of divine fire, it's indeed outstanding. She thought to herself, Please greet the friends of the fox-pattern celestial race and the Divine Tiger Dynasty and introduce some information to Yen. This must be Yen-er's father and grandfather. Let me have a chat with the two of you and thank you for gifting such outstanding disciples to me. The Double Fox God Master looked at Hu Fei and the rest with a smile on his face. I dare not. My Lord Divine Master, our Patriarch and Tiger Emperor. Let's go together. Double Fox Divine Master said as he walked straight towards the back of the main hall. Tiger Emperor, Empress, and Hu Fei, Hu Yen-er's grandfather hurriedly followed behind. 8 peak stage Eternal Double Fox Divine Realm experts also followed behind and entered. Sit. Double Fox Divine Master entered and gestured to them. Tiger Emperor Empress Hu Fei and the others sat at the side with faces full of excitement and caution. Yen Er's characteristics are very strong. She is the most outstanding person I have ever seen. In the future, she is very likely to inherit my mantle. Double Fox Godlord sat at the center and said directly, Yen Er is able to take you, Double Fox Godlord, as her master. This is her good fortune. Thank you, Lord Godlord, for taking my daughter as a disciple. Hu Fei immediately stood up and said respectfully, He. Double Fox Godlord waved his hand. This is also my honor. Your fox pattern race can directly join our eternal twin foxes in the future. I will definitely not mistreat you. If you have any difficulties in the future, just come to them directly. Thank you, Godlord. Empress Hu Fei and the others trembled as they hurriedly thanked him. We are all a family. It is you who gave me a good disciple. Double Fox Godlord said indifferently. In the future, Yen Er will cultivate with me. I'm not very clear about some things about Yen. I only know that she has a fiancé. Is that right? Double Fox Godlord opened his mouth and asked. Oh, it is the Lord Godlord. Yen Er has a fiancé. The reason why Yen Er can reach her current strength is because of her fiancé. Hu Fei frowned without leaving a trace as he replied. That should be because he used a special method to open Yen Er's hidden physique. Yen Er's physique is heaven-defying. In the future, she will cultivate with me and inherit my eternal twin foxes. The twin fox Godlord said faintly. This? Hu Fei was slightly stunned when he heard her words. He did not understand what she meant. Hu Fei, didn't you say that Yen Er's engagement with that Wang Xian was merely a temporary measure? It was because the ancient Orchid Divine sect broke off their engagement. A glint flashed across the Empress's eyes as she immediately asked Hu Fei. There is such a thing, but... Hu Fei nodded his head. In the future, Yen Er will focus on her cultivation with the Lord God. Let's put aside some of her personal feelings for now. It's just a temporary measure anyway. Let's just forget about it. Hu Fei did not say anything. The Empress directly interrupted him. That's right. I think Yen Er's marriage will be discussed in the future. The Tiger Emperor also directly opened his mouth and said. Hu Fei did not understand what the dual fox Godlord meant. However, as the Emperor and the Empress, who was the mother of the world, they had already heard a trace of it. Thinking about it, it made sense. The successor chosen by the dual fox Godlord was to inherit the eternal dual fox. However, if he were to marry an outsider, what would happen in the future? They could not guarantee this. It was obvious that the double fox Godlord wanted to kill all accidents. Yen Er has a good impression of Wang Xian now. I'm afraid that Yen... Hu Fei frowned slightly. It's all right. It's still early. Let's not talk about this for now. The double fox Godlord said indifferently. He changed the topic and started to talk about other things. After chatting for about 5 minutes, Hu Fei and the others left, and a few peak divine realm experts of eternal double fox followed them. Little Hu, what's the matter? Double fox Godlord saw that an old man didn't leave. He stood there hesitantly and asked indifferently. Grandma, about Yen Er's matter, Little Hu has some opinions. The old man said respectfully to Double Fox Godlord. Speak. Double Fox Godlord lightly nodded. Grandma, Little Pot thinks that if Grandma wants to pass the eternal Double Fox inheritance to Yen, then it's best for her to marry into our eternal Double Fox. The old man respectfully said. It's not that I want to pass the eternal Double Fox inheritance to her, but other than her having the greatest possibility of advancing to Godlord, the other disciples are too small. The twin fox Godlord said. Little Pot knows that right now, the most talented Xiao Yi has a 1 in 10 chance of reaching your level. I think. Let's settle the matter of Yen Er's fiancé first before we talk about anything else. I'll leave this matter to you. Remember, Yen-Er is my disciple. She might inherit the eternal twin foxes in the future. The twin fox god lord interrupted him, waved his hand at him, and ordered him to retreat. The old man bowed and immediately retreated. He naturally understood his grandmother's meaning. He could use any method, but he could not let Hu Yen-Er bear a grudge against the eternal double fox. This is very simple. The old man muttered. Chapter 2191. 2191-2191 Assassination. Yen-Er, twin fox god lord, said that he will hold a master's ceremony here in 5 days. At that time, he will invite all the major powers to witness it. Hu Fei and Tiger Emperor walked out from the room behind the main hall and walked towards Hu Yen-Er with smiles on their faces. Master's ceremony? Hu Yen-Er nodded her head. An eternal god lord accepting a disciple, such a major event would naturally be announced to the world. If the ceremony was held at this place, it might not only be the arrival of the forces from the western region, but also some forces from the central region. In fact, the other masters might even give face to the double fox master and come to watch the ceremony. 5 days later, it would definitely be a huge event. When the time comes, Yen-Er will become the princess of the entire eternal double fox. Wang Xian said with a faint smile. I'm not a princess. Hu Yen-Er said to him with a smile. Everyone from the Fox's God clan, we will get someone to bring you to the place where you will be staying. As this continent is only temporary, there is no place to stay in the main hall for the time being. It will be tough for everyone to stay by the side of the main hall. The last old man who walked out looked at all of them and walked over to apologize. It's all right, it's all right. Tiger Emperor and the others hurriedly replied. Old 7, bring them to take a look. Little Princess Hu Yen-Er, I'll find someone to teach you some of our eternal twin foxes etiquette and rules in the next few days. Little Princess, don't go out for the next few days. Everyone from the Foxmark Divine clan can come and see her. The old man continued to add. All right. Hu Yen-Er nodded at him. Old 7, take them to familiarize themselves with the place. We'll have dinner together tonight. The old man said to a peak deity realm expert. All right, everyone, follow me. That expert gestured to them and led them out. Hu Yen-Er also followed. Little Yi. Seeing them leave, the old man looked at Divine Fox Knight and shouted at him. He walked out. Great-grandfather, what orders do you have? Divine Fox Knight followed behind with a puzzled expression. Hu Yen-Er is not bad. She might inherit our eternal twin foxes in the future. Your talent can be considered the most outstanding of our eternal twin foxes in the past 100,000 years. You should interact more with Hu Yen-Er. The old man looked at him and said faintly. Oh. Divine Fox Knight was slightly stunned. He was naturally very willing to interact more with Hu Yen-Er. However, just like earlier, when he went over to chat with her, Hu Yen-Er completely ignored him. She merely gave a few words of agreement before talking to the youth beside her. She might inherit the eternal twin foxes. Our eternal twin foxes naturally would not agree to let her marry an outsider. The old man looked at him and continued speaking. Oh. Divine Fox Knight's eyes flickered. Even if Hu Yen-Er had the slightest chance of inheriting the eternal twin foxes, they, and even the Lord God-Lord, would not agree to her marrying an outsider. Only by marrying the eternal twin foxes would she be considered one of them. He suddenly raised his head, and a fiery look appeared in his eyes. But, grandfather, she already has a fiancé now. Divine Fox Knight said in a low voice. I'll leave this matter to you. Remember, you can't let Hu Yen-Er know, or else you'll know the consequences. The old man said to him. Divine Fox Knight's body paused, and light shot out from his eyes. Grandfather, in recent years, a powerful assassin organization has appeared in the central region. His face revealed a trace of excitement as he said in a low voice. And remember, you can't let Hu Yen-Er know. The old man reminded once again. Don't worry, great-grandfather, there won't be any problems. Divine Fox Knight said with a face full of confidence. This is some information about that young man. The old man nodded, passed a few pieces of paper to him, and walked straight ahead. After receiving the paper, Shenhuyi paused for a moment and read the contents. Then, he returned to the main hall and gestured to a young man. Big brother. The young man walked over and shouted at him with a smile on his face. Last time, you mentioned that there is a powerful assassin organization in the central region. Is it reliable? Contact the target, Hu Yen-er's fiancé, Wang Xian. Godly Fox Knight said to him coldly. What? The young man was slightly stunned. He looked at him with a face full of shock. That young man's identity is very mysterious. Even our eternal twin foxes have yet to find any information about him. Hu Yen-er and the fox-patterned celestial race do not know his identity. It doesn't matter if such a person dies. Even so, don't leave any traces behind. Godly Fox Knight said faintly. They didn't manage to find any information about Wang Xian within a short period of time. However, they didn't care how mysterious he was as long as Hu Yen-er didn't know about it. Big brother, are we really going to make a move? That assassin organization is very reliable. There's no one that they wouldn't dare to kill. Many of the 9 wisps of divine fire gods were assassinated. Killing that guy is a piece of cake. The youth's eyes flickered as he spoke. Contact them. Divine Fox Knight said indifferently. Alright, I'll contact them right away. I estimate that we'll be able to kill them within 2 to 3 days. The youth nodded. Divine Fox Knight nodded. Since his grandfather was so cautious, he naturally had to get rid of everything. He could rest assured that if anything happened, he would be able to withstand it for him. Hu Yen-er. At the thought of Hu Yen-er's appearance, a fiery expression appeared on his face. This is the place where everyone will temporarily stay. Outside the main hall, the 2 eternal foxes brought them to their residence and spoke to them one by one. I'll have to trouble you, elder. The Tiger Emperor and the rest said hurriedly. It's no trouble. Take a look around. Someone will come to fetch everyone tonight. The old man shook his head and turned around to leave. Brother Wang Xian, let me take a look at your residence. Hu Yen-er pulled Wang Xian towards the courtyard at the side. The small courtyard gave them a familiar feeling. Hu Fei, Hu Yaoguang, let's talk together. At the side, the Tiger Emperor and Empress called out to Hu Fei and Hu Yen-er's grandfather. Yes, Your Majesty. Empress, what's the matter? The 2 of them walked over immediately. Let's talk inside. The Tiger Emperor looked at the backs of Hu Yen-er and Wang Xian and said to them. Okay. Hu Fei and her father exchanged a glance and walked inside. Hu Fei, do you understand what Master Dual Fox means today? The 4 of them sat in the room while the Empress looked at them and said, Dual Fox Godlord doesn't seem to want Yen-er to have a fiancé. Hu Yaoguang frowned and said indifferently, It's not that he doesn't want a fiancé, but he doesn't want a fiancé outside. After all, Yen-er might inherit the eternal Dual Fox. Dual Fox Godlord naturally wants Hu Yen-er to be one of us, not just a disciple. The Empress's eyes flickered as she said. Chapter 2192. 2192 under 2192's assassination attempt. How could a mighty eternal double fox, the god of double foxes, be inherited by an outsider? Yen-er's current fiancé is an outsider. The Tiger Emperor looked at Hu Fei, Hu Yaoguang, and the rest and added. Then we. Hu Fei opened her mouth, not knowing what to say. Yen-er and that young man were originally a temporary solution. Let's find a time to talk about it and tell him to stay away from Yen-er in the future. The Empress said faintly. But Yen-er seems to have a good impression of Wang Xian now. Hu Fei frowned and said. Yen-er is still young and insensible. For Yen-er's future, We should make a decision for him. The Tiger Emperor said from the side. Besides, although the Dual Fox Divine Master didn't mention anything about Yen-Er's future, we should think about it. Yen-Er's marriage to the Eternal Double Fox is the best choice now. I think Yen-Er is quite sensible. As elders, we can arrange a marriage for him. The Empress continued to add on. This? Hu Fei and her father looked at each other. Their expressions changed. They were more satisfied with Wang Xian from the bottom of their hearts. Furthermore, the fact that Yen-Er was taken in as a disciple by the Double Fox God Lord had a lot to do with Wang Xian. If they were to do such a thing at this time, it would be a little unreasonable. Should we seek Yen-Er's opinion? Hu Fei hesitated for a moment before speaking. The Tiger Emperor and the Empress frowned slightly and fell into deep thought. This matter can be postponed. However, Yen-Er will be taking on the Double Fox Celestial Master in 5 days. We have to do one thing. That is to announce that Yen-Er's engagement with that Wang Xian is only a temporary measure. Yen-Er is his savior anyway. We are also thinking of Yen-Er's future. We will do the rest. The Empress said directly. Hu Fei and Hu Yaoguang could not refute. They could only nod their heads. At night, the people from the Eternal Double Fox came to pick them up for dinner. In a palace located in the center of the palace, the experts from the Eternal Twin Foxes and the members of the Fox-Mark Celestial race were having dinner together. As the female lead, Hu Yen-Er was the center of everyone's attention. Wang Xian sat beside Hu Yen. From time to time, he could feel the cold gazes coming from the opposite side. He looked over and saw a few young men staring at him. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Yen, it seems that you are quite charming. Look, I feel that there are a few murderous gazes staring at me. Wang Xian said to Hu Yen-Er, who was beside him, with a smile. No, it's probably because brother Wang Xian is more handsome. Hu Yen-Er's face was filled with joy as she said with a blushing face. Is that so? He said with a smile. On the opposite side, Divine Fox Knight clenched his fists tightly when he saw their friendly looks. You won't be able to be happy for long. Divine Fox Knight growled in a low voice. After 3 rounds of drinking, everything was in harmony. With Hu Yen-Er around, no one dared to show any disrespect to Wang Xian. After waving goodbye to Hu Yen-Er, Wang Xian and the rest of the Huan celestial race walked out. Little brother Wang Xian. At this moment, a voice came from the side. Wang Xian looked over and saw the Tiger Emperor and the Empress walking towards him with smiles on their faces. Both of them walked to both sides of him. What's the matter? Wang Xian's heart skipped a beat as he looked at them. Let's get straight to the point then. The Tiger Emperor looked at him indifferently. Your engagement with Yen-Er was originally a temporary measure. It was just a temporary act. Now that Yen-Er has been taken in as a disciple by the Dual Fox Celestial Master, she might inherit the Eternal Dual Foxes in the future. For the sake of Yen-Er's future and to prevent her from being distracted, let's forget about our relationship back then. As he spoke, he took out a treasure and handed it to Wang Xian. This is a pretty good divine weapon. Take it. No need. When Wang Xian heard his words, he narrowed his eyes slightly and shook his head lightly. Young man, now that Yen-Er has become the disciple of the Double Fox God, you should know the difference between you and her. Don't be too greedy. The Empress frowned slightly when she saw Wang Xian's rejection. You don't have to interfere in my matters. Wang Xian glanced at them and said calmly. Young man, you have to recognize your identity. How mysterious is your identity? How strong can you be? Are you worthy of Yen-Er? The Empress said coldly when she heard his words. Wang Xian smiled faintly and glanced at Hu Fei and the rest who were behind him. He saw that Hu Fei was frowning and his eyes were flickering. He walked straight to his own courtyard. You don't know when to advance or retreat. The Tiger Monarch looked at his figure and said coldly. He is a toad that wants to eat swan meat. The Empress's gaze was cold. He actually told me to stay away from Yen. Yender should not know about this. Wang Xian returned to the courtyard and frowned slightly. Leader, we have received a huge mission. The other party wants you to do it personally. Their reward is very generous. At this moment, in a bustling city in the central starfield, a white figure stood in front of a black and white figure in an unusually ordinary restaurant and spoke respectfully. Oh, what is the opponent's strength? The black and white figure asked indifferently. A young man's strength should have ignited the divine fire. The white figure reported. Oh, such a simple task requires me to do it personally. It seems to be special. The black and white figure was slightly surprised. The opponent requests to assassinate the opponent within 48 hours. The opponent is currently on the Twin Fox continent of the fallen immortal God Island. The opponent has provided the specific location. The white shadow continued to speak. It seems that it might be an elite disciple of the eternal Twin Foxes. Take it. The black and white shadow said directly. Even if the other party might be the core disciple of the eternal Twin Foxes, they were not afraid at all. Other assassin organizations might be afraid of the eternal God Lord's forces, but they were fearless. As an assassin organization that had risen in the past 2 years, although they had only been established for a very short time, their fame had spread throughout the endless star field. All the experts below the peak of the God realm were terrified of them. Once, a proud son of heaven of the eternal 7 stars in the central area had died at their hands. So what? They didn't even know who had killed him. It's the leader. The white shadow nodded immediately. Soon, the information of the assassins was sent over. There was a simple portrait and introduction on it. The other party had appointed the strongest person in their assassin organization to take action. As a credit, their leader would personally take action. The white shadow handed the information to the black and white shadow. Huh. When the black and white shadow saw the information on it, he suddenly stood up. A terrifying murderous aura condensed in the air. He actually wants to harm the Dragon King. Very good, very good. The black and white light revolved around his body and a cold pupil slowly appeared. Stop all the missions immediately and find the person who issued this mission. All the members of the strange monster, follow me to the fallen immortal God Island. If you want to harm the Dragon King, kill without mercy. Chapter 2193. 2193-2193 Dragon Spike. The Dragon Spike Assassin Organization, the assassin organization that had risen up in the central region in the past 2 years. The rise of the Dragon Spike was built on the corpses. Since its establishment, it had only accepted missions with 9 wisps of divine fire wrapped around the 9 wisps of divine fire and below. It had never lost. The 9 wisps of divine fire experts that had died at the hands of the Dragon Spike Assassin Organization had reached 7 or 8. 60 or 70 gods had died at the hands of the Dragon Assassin Group. None of them had lost. The appearance of the Dragon Assassin Group had terrified many forces. Some big forces wanted to destroy the Dragon Assassin Group, but all the disciples under the peak of the godly state had been assassinated. Since then, the Dragon Assassin Group had become famous throughout the Boundless Star area. Many people in other regions had heard of the Dragon Assassin Group. The leader of the Dragon Assassin Group, Ao Yao. 3 years ago, Ao Yao had led Strange Demon out of the Dragon Palace to explore the world. 3 years had passed since then, and he had made his current announcement. Today, when he received news that someone was going to assassinate their Dragon King, Ao Yao's heart was filled with killing intent. In one night, more than 2,000 members of the Dragon Assassin Group had gathered. Under Ao Yao's lead, they flew towards the fallen immortal island. At the same time, Ao Yao used all the strength of the Dragon Assassin Organization to investigate the person who issued the mission. The person who issued the mission had to contact the Dragon Assassin Organization. They had to pay a deposit when they issued the mission. They had to come into contact with the Dragon Assassin Organization. Once they came into contact with the Dragon Assassin Organization, the Dragon Assassin organization would be able to find clues and find the person who issued the mission. Although this went against the core of the assassin organization, would the Dragon Assassin organization be concerned about this? Since he dared to harm their Dragon King, he was destined to die. The night passed quickly. Early in the morning, Wang Xian came to the courtyard and brewed a cup of tea. A few days ago, Hu Yan-er had already run over. Thinking of Hu Yan-er, Wang Xian smiled faintly. But at this moment, Wang Xian sensed a familiar aura coming. Dragon King. He turned around and saw Ao Yao kneeling by the side. She was shouting respectfully. "Oh, Ao Yao, why are you here?" Wang Xian looked at him in surprise. "Dragon King, all the disciples of our strange demon clan have arrived. 3 years ago, our strange demon clan left the Dragon Palace and established an assassin organization in the central region. Now, our Dragon Assassin organization is well known. Yesterday, we received a mission to assassinate the Dragon King. Hence, Ao Yao brought her men and rushed over immediately." Ao Yao reported to Wang Xian. "Assassination mission." Wang Xian was stunned for a moment and squinted his eyes slightly. "We are investigating the sender of the mission. We should have the results today." Ao Yao reported. "All right, let's wait then. Where are the other members of the strange demon now?" Wang Xian asked him. "I can sense the aura of the other members of the Dragon Palace. The strange demon is currently with Ao Jian and the rest." Ao Yao said. "Come, let's go. Bring all your resources and go to the Dragon Palace to increase your strength." Wang Xian said to him. His body moved and he flew out directly. Ao Yao immediately followed behind him. Soon, the two of them arrived on the meteorite. "Greetings, Dragon King." The group of strange demons immediately knelt in front and shouted loudly, "Get up!" Wang Xian waved his hand and swept his gaze across all the members of the strange demons. Their improvement was generally higher than that of the Dragon Guards. Coupled with the resources in their hands, their overall strength should be much stronger than the Dragon Guards. But his body shook and the Dragon Palace appeared faintly behind him. "Ao Yao, increase your combat strength to the peak of the godly state." Wang Xian instructed Ao Yao. "It's the Dragon King." Ao Yao nodded and led all the strange demons into the Dragon Palace. As the famous Dragon Assassin organization, the resources they obtained were definitely not something the Dragon Guards could compare to. However, most of the members of the Dragon Guards had improved their heartless sword principle. Even if the overall strength of the strange demons was higher than theirs, it was not much higher. "I wonder who would want to assassinate me? The Tiger Emperor and Empress from yesterday? Or is it someone from the Eternal Twin Foxes?" Wang Xian stood on the meteorite with a cold glint in his eyes. "Where is Brother Wang Xian? Brother, why isn't Brother Wang Xian here?" At this moment, in the main hall at the center of the Twin Foxes continent, Hu Yan-er swept her gaze across the surroundings and asked Hu Ji. I don't know either. When I went to his courtyard just now, I realized that he was no longer in there." Hu Ji shook his head. "Sister, are you really in love with Wang Xian?" He hesitated for a moment and asked Hu Yan-er. Brother, what nonsense are you asking?" Hu Yan-er's face turned red and she immediately ran away. "Sigh, sister, I also think that brother-in-law Wang Xian is not bad. However, you are already the disciple of the Master of God. Although that Wang Xian is mysterious, he might not be worthy of you anymore. Perhaps the Tiger Emperor, Empress, and even the Eternal Twin Foxes will stop him." Hu Ji sighed and looked at the figure of his sister. That kid knows his own limits. At the side, when the Tiger Emperor, Empress, and the rest saw that Wang Xian had not arrived, they revealed satisfied expressions on their faces. "Big brother, the Dragon Spike has already responded. They have accepted this mission. I will go and pay the reward." In a corner of the hall, a young man whispered to Divine Fox Knight. "Be careful." Divine Fox Knight said to him. Don't worry, big brother. The Dragon Assassin organization's credibility is still trustworthy. There won't be any problems. Tomorrow morning, this person will disappear from the human world. The young man said confidently. Okay. Divine Fox Knight nodded. The youth left. Looking at the communication stone plate in his hand, his body moved and walked towards a location at the edge of the Twin Fox continent. There was the place where he had agreed to pay the Dragon Assassin. Arriving at an empty location, he threw an interspatial ring on the ground and pretended that nothing had happened as he returned the way he came. Whoosh! However, at this moment, a ray of light completely enveloped him. The young man didn't even have time to react before he fainted instantly. Then he disappeared. The young man had been very careful when he came. No one knew that he had disappeared. Dragon King, the person who issued the mission, has been caught. Not long after, two strange demons who had transformed into dragon-pricking dragons appeared on the meteorite. In front of them, an unconscious body was placed on the ground. Wang Xian looked over and raised his eyebrows slightly. Eternal twin foxes. He mumbled. He had seen this young man before. He was the core disciple of the eternal twin foxes. He narrowed his eyes slightly and waved his arm. The sound of sleep-talking came from his mouth. He looked around with a confused expression. When he saw Wang Xian in front of him, his expression changed drastically. Then he stood up abruptly. It was you who ambushed me? You're courting death. How dare you ambush me? You're courting death. Do you know who I am? He stood up with a cold expression and shouted at Wang Xian sternly. However, at this moment, the strange demon who had been improving his strength in the Dragon Palace for a few hours walked out slowly. More than 2,000 members of the Dragon Spike team who were glowing with light and black and white walked to the back of Wang Xian. The leader of the team, Ao Yao, stared at him coldly. Chapter 2194. 2194. I am the Dragon King. The young man stared at Wang Xian with an ice-cold expression. His face was filled with anger and coldness. He did not expect that this fellow in front of him would actually dare to follow and sneak attack him. Who gave him the courage? He was the core disciple of the eternal twin foxes. However, when he saw many strange creatures walking towards him, he was slightly stunned. Feeling the cold aura of the other party, his expression changed slightly. But immediately after, a light flashed in his mind. White light. Black and white strange. Dragon Spike. This was a Dragon Spike. He had some understanding of the Dragon Spike assassin organization. The Dragon Spike was extremely powerful, and all of the missions had failed. You don't know when you will be assassinated. It could be when you were eating in the restaurant or when you were sleeping. The assassination of the Dragon Assassin organization didn't differentiate between day and night. Someone once discovered that the members of the Dragon Assassin organization were a special type of demon beast. It seemed that some of them cultivated the light while others controlled the darkness. He looked at the strange black and white demon beasts that were emitting a cold aura of light in front of him. He immediately thought of the members of the Dragon Assassin organization. However, how did this Wang Xian, Hu Yen-er's fiancé, end up with the Dragon Assassin organization? Could it be? In an instant, his forehead was filled with cold sweat. He couldn't help but take a few steps back as a look of panic appeared in his eyes. You are. He pointed at Wang Xian with his eyes wide open. Finding my underlings to assassinate me is really interesting. Wang Xian stared at him coldly. Gulp. Hearing Wang Xian say it out loud, the young man couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. A look of panic appeared on his face. You? How can you be the leader of the Dragon Assassin organization? No. You can't kill me. Otherwise, our eternal twin foxes will not let you off. The young man stared at Wang Xian in disbelief as he roared. He couldn't believe it. He had hired an assassin to assassinate Wang Xian, but in the end, the leader of the assassin organization was him. This was simply a joke from the heavens. He was simply here to die. You should know better than to look for our dragon assassin organization. Would our dragon assassin organization be afraid of your eternal twin foxes? Ao Yao heard their words and said indifferently from the side. When the young man heard his words, he immediately felt his scalp go numb. He understood the dragon assassin organization, and he also knew that they relied on their special abilities to hide in the various planets. They were not afraid even if they had the strength of a god lord. "Oh, don't kill me," the young man said with a face full of fear. He looked around and wanted to escape. However, the thousands of pairs of eyes in front of him were staring at him, causing his body to tremble. But Wang Xian waved his arm and a gray hand grabbed his neck. "The one who wants to kill me is you." Wang Xian grabbed him and said calmly, No, how can you be the leader of the dragon spikes? I'm not satisfied." The young man felt the suffocation coming from his neck. His face was flushed red as he roared indignantly. He was really unlucky. "Before you die, let me introduce myself. My name is Dragon King." Wang Xian stared at him mockingly and exerted some strength with his palm. "Dragon King." The young man widened his eyes. He was at a loss at first before a look of astonishment appeared on his face. "Dragon King. Dragon King of the Dragon Palace." The Dragon King of the Dragon Palace, who was a powerful force that was able to fight against the eternal thunderbolts in the northern region and was unafraid of a god-level force. How was that possible? His eyes widened so much that they almost bulged out. But at this moment, a gush of energy that was extinguished entered his mind, causing it to lose its vitality instantly. But Wang Xian closed his eyes slowly. He had already activated the soul-absorbing power. He wanted to check if there were still people behind him who wanted to kill him. The information was digested one after another. 10 minutes later, he slowly opened his eyes. A strong murderous intent shot out from his eyes. "Divine Fox Knight." Wang Xian mumbled. "Dragon King, do you want me to assassinate all the people involved?" Ao Yao bowed and asked when he heard Wang Xian mention a name. "They are currently living in the palace in the middle of the Double Fox continent. There is the Eternal Lord there. Let's not make a move for now." Wang Xian shook his head at Ao Yao. Even though Ao Yao had the combat strength of a peak godly state, he was still not as strong as the Eternal Lord. His concealment was useless in front of the Eternal Lord. Ao Yao and the rest could not take the risk. It was very easy to kill a disciple of the Eternal Double Foxes. "All of you stay here for the time being. Wait for Ao Crab to come out. Tell him to wait for my order here," Wang Xian said with a twinkle in his eyes. "It's the Dragon King." Strange Demon and the rest nodded their heads. Wang Xian moved his body and flew straight in the direction of the Double Fox continent. "Did you hear? 4 days later, the Double Fox God is holding a disciple recruitment banquet. All factions are welcome to come." I already knew about this yesterday. Today, there is a very explosive matter. Princess Hu Yenner's fiancé is not her real fiancé. It is a temporary measure that the fox pattern celestial race had to take because of some matters. Oh, is that true? Could it be that after Princess Hu Yenner was taken in as a disciple by the Double Fox God, her fiancé was unworthy and wanted to divorce her on purpose? I don't know the details, but this news was told by the disciples of the fox pattern celestial race and the divine tiger dynasty. They are not engaged, so it shouldn't be a lie. No matter what, little Princess Hu Yenner will be the only disciple of the master of twin foxes in the future. Her fiancé is unworthy. That's true. However, that fellow should have received a lot of benefits. He should know his place. The only person who is worthy of Princess Hu Yenner is probably the most outstanding disciple of the eternal twin foxes. When Wang Xian had just arrived at the twin foxes continent, He heard discussions coming from the surroundings. Recently, the matter of the master of twin foxes taking in a disciple had even surpassed some of the matters in the tomb of the gods. Especially today, the news that some disciples of the divine tiger dynasty and the fox-pattern celestial race had spread had caused everyone to be in a heated discussion. Huh! When Wang Xian heard the voices around him, he was slightly stunned. His eyes were sparkling. It seems like the divine tiger dynasty and the fox-pattern celestial race don't think that I'm worthy of them. Hu Fei shouldn't be such a person. Although, from the long-term perspective of a family, their actions are right. But Wang Xian mumbled as his eyes flashed with a cold glint. He walked straight to his residence. He wanted to see what would happen next. Unless Hu Yen-er opened her mouth, he wanted to see if there were any problems waiting for him, or if there was someone who wanted him dead. In the end, even if Hu Yen-er opened her mouth to ask him to leave, he would take the life of that person who was courting death before leaving. No one could stop him. Soon, there was no one in the entire boundless galaxy. A strong sense of confidence emanated from Wang Xian. A faint smile appeared on his face. This was his foundation. Chapter 2195. 2195 at the 2195 Disciple Recruitment Banquet. What's going on? Why isn't Divine Fox Ming here yet? Did something happen? The sky was getting dark. In the palace in the middle of the Twin Fox continent, Divine Fox was walking around in a room non-stop. He frowned and revealed an embarrassed expression. It had been more than half a day since Divine Fox Ming left in the morning. Based on his understanding of Divine Fox Ming, he would definitely report to him as soon as he was done. However, more than half a day had passed and he still had not returned. He was certain that something must have happened to Divine Fox Ming. What could it be? I have also learned about the Dragon Assassin organization today. It is definitely a powerful organization that can be trusted. He mumbled to himself as he had a bad feeling in his heart. If Wang Xian is still alive tomorrow and if the Divine Fox Ming doesn't appear tomorrow, then something bad will happen. The Divine Fox Knight sat on a chair with a gloomy face. In the courtyard outside the palace, Wang Xian had already arrived at the courtyard. He was looking through some information on the eternal twin foxes. The night passed very quickly. In the morning, Wang Xian walked out of the courtyard and headed towards the outside. However, just as he walked out of the courtyard and was about to head towards the palace, two figures walked towards him. The two old men were exuding a powerful aura. They held onto Wang Xian and walked straight towards him. Huh! Wang Xian looked at the two of them and paused for a moment. Little brother Wang Xian, are you going to the palace? An old man came over and asked him directly. Yes. Wang Xian looked at the clothes on their bodies. It was the attire of the divine tiger dynasty. His eyes flickered. It was obvious that they were the people arranged by the Tiger Emperor and the Empress. Little brother, there's no need to go. Princess Hu Yen-er is currently studying etiquette in the palace. It's best for outsiders not to disturb her. An old man said directly. Huh? Wang Xian raised his eyebrows and stared at them coldly. Did your Tiger Emperor and Empress say that? No matter who said it, you should take a look at your identity. A toad can't eat swan meat. The two old men saw his cold expression and said coldly as well. Sorry. Remember what you said today. Wang Xian looked at them calmly and said coldly. After that, he returned to his own courtyard. You want us to remember it? Why don't you take a look at your own strength? The people from the Foxmark celestial race also said that his background is mysterious. How mysterious can he be? How strong can he be? The two of them said with a look of disdain. Their voices were not concealed at all. Wang Xian could hear them clearly. Wang Xian smiled gently as a cold glint flashed across his eyes. He didn't die as expected. Damn it. Could it be that there was a problem when Divine Fox Ming went to pay the reward? Or did the Dragon Assassin organization leave him there? In a high-level building in the palace, Divine Fox Knight looked at Wang Xian's figure with a gloomy expression. God Fox Ming had disappeared and lost all contact with him. There are still 2 days left. I must get rid of him. I must. God Fox Knight clenched his fists tightly. His face was filled with killing intent. Do it himself? No, the other party seems to have a powerful subordinate. An assassin organization? I'm afraid it's too late now. God Fox Knight's expression kept changing. If Wang Xian was an ordinary disciple of an ordinary faction, he could have directly asked the experts of the Eternal Twin Foxes to help him. However, he was now Hu Yen'er's fiancé. If he wanted someone to kill him, he would have to find an assassin or ask a trustworthy expert to do it. Otherwise, once the matter was exposed, he might be in danger himself. Father and mother are here today. They are with Hu Yen'er now. Tell father about this matter. Naturally, he could trust his father. Furthermore, with his father's current status and strength, he had many more methods than him. Godly Fox Knight frowned and walked straight to the center of the palace. Brother, why isn't Brother Wang Xian here today? In the center of the palace, Hu Yen'er walked to her brother's side and asked softly. I'm not sure about this either. Perhaps Brother Wang Xian is a little busy. Hu Ji's eyes flickered when he saw his sister's question. Naturally, he knew why Wang Xian didn't come. Not to mention him, even his father and grandfather couldn't object to some of the decisions made by the Tiger Emperor and the Empress. Is he a little busy? Hu Yen'er's brows were knitted tightly together. Sister, why don't you use the communication stone to interrogate him? Hu Ji hesitated for a moment and said to her, yes. Hu Yen'er also felt that she needed to take the initiative to contact Brother Wang Xian. Hehe, Yen'er, you are now the disciple of the Eternal Lord. Perhaps your fiancé feels that he is not good enough for you, so he took the initiative to leave. Also, our Yen'er's identity is different from the past. We have to set our sights higher. There are many people in this world who are much more outstanding than your Wang Xian. Look at those outstanding disciples of the Eternal Twin Foxes. Which one of them is not as outstanding as yours? At this moment, the Empress walked over and held Hu Yen'er's arm with a friendly expression. She said with a smile, Empress, Hu Yen'er opened her mouth, wanting to refute. I know. Yen, you're still too young. Some of the Eternal Twin Foxes experts, the descendants of the Lord God, have rushed over. They want to meet our little princess. Let's go over and get to know each other. There are quite a few outstanding disciples there. The Empress brought him to a seat at the side with an amiable expression. Today was a day that made her feel very proud. The Eternal Double Fox Core expert who used to be high and mighty, the descendant of the God Lord, was now chatting with him with an amiable expression. This made her vanity greatly satisfied. All of this was because of the girl in front of her. This made her even more determined. She must make Yen'er become the Eternal Double Fox's person. She must not let that wild boy cause trouble. Hu Yen'er smiled bitterly and followed him. Soon, dozens of middle-aged men with extraordinary temperaments surrounded her. They were trying to curry favor with Hu Yen'er. Look, that is Divine Fox Knight. He is the most outstanding youth of the Eternal Twin Foxes. He has already lit 3 wisps of divine fire at such a young age. He will definitely be the pillar of the Eternal Twin Foxes in the future. Look at how handsome he is. He is more than 10 times stronger than your fiancé who is not worthy of you. Not long after, when the Empress saw Divine Fox Knight arrive, she softly introduced him to her. Your Majesty, I need to rest for a while. When Hu Yen'er heard her incessant speech, she felt a little unhappy and directly said this. The Empress' expression changed slightly as she watched Hu Yen'er leave. Her expression was uncertain. This child is still too young, still too young. She squeezed out a smile and continued to chat with some of the Eternal Twin Foxes. Chapter 2196. 2196. At the 2196 Disciple Recruitment Banquet, our Yen-er's engagement with the young man back then was only a temporary measure. If we don't do it for real, how could that young man be as outstanding as the eternal twin fox's disciple? Now that Yen-er has been taken in as a disciple by the dual fox god lord, only the eternal twin fox's elite disciple can match her. Then look at our Xiao Yi. He is our eternal twin fox's most elite disciple. I think we can do it. Let him have more contact with our Yen-er. The double fox god lord accepted a personal disciple and even said that he might pass on the eternal twin foxes to her in the future. For the entire eternal twin foxes, this was comparable to changing dynasties. Countless eternal twin foxes experts immediately rushed over towards Hu Yen. They also had a trace of flattery and fawning. Even if many of them were the descendants of the god lord, Hu Yen-er's position in the future would be much higher than theirs. If any kid could marry Hu Yen-er, it would be of great benefit to them. Many people from the eternal twin foxes were talking with Empress Hu Fei and the others with warm faces. This Ling Hu Fei's heart was filled with bitterness. Divine Fox Ming has disappeared. In a corner, Divine Fox Knight stood beside a middle-aged man with a slight frown. Yes, father. Divine Fox Knight's expression was somewhat unsightly as he nodded his head. I'll handle this matter. Your current task is to please that Hu Yen-er and see if you can give her a good impression. The power of the descendants in our eternal twin foxes is definitely not low. The middle-aged man thought for a moment and said to him, "It's father." Divine Fox Knight nodded, and a smile appeared on his face. He was relieved that his father was personally handling this matter. Princess Yen-er. He chatted with his father for a while, and then walked straight towards Hu Yen. This Divine Tiger Dynasty's empress is very tactful, and knows that Hu Yen-er must marry into our eternal twin foxes. Elder, that empress said that in the past, the Foxmark Divine clan had arranged a marriage for Princess Hu Yen. Princess Hu Yen-er is more obedient and won't go against the arrangements of her relatives. She can get Yen-er's father to arrange another marriage for her. Arrange another marriage? Let's talk about it in the future. As long as Hu Yen-er marries our eternal twin fox's disciple, it will be fine. A few elders were chatting at the side, looking at the Divine Tiger Dynasty's Empress and Tiger Emperor with satisfied expressions. More and more people were coming to the fallen immortal God Island, especially the eternal twin fox's disciples and experts. At least 60 to 70% of them had already arrived. Eternal twin fox's disciples and divine realm experts could be seen everywhere. The double fox god lord taking in disciples caused the focus of the entire eternal twin foxes to shift from the divine tomb to the god lord taking in disciples in a few days. In the entire western region, the other factions were also discussing the matter of the god lord's disciple recruitment. In a few days, the double fox god lord's disciple recruitment banquet would be held. They had to come and present a congratulatory gift. For the entire western region, this was a major event. There was still one day before the double fox god lord's disciple recruitment banquet. A major event had occurred on the fallen immortal island. Another god lord level expert had arrived and broken through the defenses of a divine island and entered. At that time, people only saw a bright green light. Some people guessed that the divine leaf master from the east had come to seek treasures. On the same day, the seven-star master and the violent new demonic nightmare master from the central region came out of the divine tomb. As for whether they had obtained any treasures, no one knew. The entire fallen immortal island was abnormally lively. Everyone was discussing the matter of the double fox celestial master accepting disciples. Brother Wang Xian, are you in the courtyard? I'll look for you secretly later. I'm so nervous right now. I have to go through the apprenticeship ceremony tomorrow. In the courtyard where Wang Xian was, he looked at the information on the communication stone plate and revealed a faint smile. A day ago, Hu Yen-er had asked him why he didn't come to look for her these 2 days. Wang Xian found a random reason to muddle through. Hence, the two of them contacted each other using the communication stone plate. Hu Yen-er told him a lot of things that had happened in the past 2 days. Sure, come over. Wang Xian replied with a smile on his face. He could sense Hu Yen-er's dependence on him. Brother Wang Xian. In less than 10 minutes, Hu Yen-er, whom he had not seen for 4 days, ran over and shouted at Wang Xian, who was in the courtyard. I haven't seen you for a few days, and you've become prettier again. Wang Xian looked at her gorgeous clothes and perfect figure. Her foxtail was swaying, showing her happy expression. No way! Brother Wang Xian, you're so annoying. You haven't come to look for me for the past few days. Hu Yen-er sat at the side shyly and complained to him. Yen-er's identity is different now. I can't disturb you every day. Wang Xian said with a smile. What identity? Yen-er is still the same Yen-er from before. I've been annoyed to death these few days. Hu Yen-er pouted and said. Yen, tell me, if I were to ask you to give up your identity as the master's disciple and come with me, would you be willing? Wang Xian suddenly looked at her and asked. Ah. Hu Yen-er was slightly stunned. Following that, her face quickly turned red. I know. The reason why I was able to get the Double Fox God Lord to accept me as his disciple was because of Brother Wang Xian. It doesn't matter if I can become the God Lord's disciple. She lowered her head and said anxiously. Make a serious decision. Wang Xian said to her once again. I. At this moment, Hu Yen-er suddenly raised her head and looked at Wang Xian with her chest heaving up and down. Of course I'm serious. These few days, I feel that I might as well stay in my family. As she spoke, her eyes sparkled with tears. It was as though Wang Xian's question had made her feel wronged. All right, I know. Wang Xian rubbed her head with a smile on his face. I'll pour you a cup of tea. I'll be there tomorrow. He smiled and took out a teacup. He placed the precious tea leaves on it. Brother Wang Xian, why don't you join the eternal twin foxes? Hu Yen-er said to him. We'll talk about this later. While conversing with Hu Yen-er, Wang Xian finally understood Hu Yen-er's attitude. Knowing her attitude was enough. As for the Tiger Emperor and Empress of the Divine Tiger Dynasty, who were they? After chatting with Hu Yen-er for more than an hour, she left reluctantly. After sending Hu Yen-er to the palace, Wang Xian walked towards his residence. Come out. When he arrived at the courtyard, he stood there and shouted softly. Ao Crab greets Dragon King. Ao Crab, who had turned into a middle-aged man, knelt on the ground and bowed respectfully to Wang Xian. You have stepped into the realm of the eternal Divine Lord. Not bad. Wang Xian looked at Ao Crab with great satisfaction. As expected of the Dragon King. Now, the entire boundless sea has been ruled by my subordinates. Ao Crab said respectfully. Have you brought all your subordinates? We might have to fight with a Divine Lord tomorrow. Wang Xian stared at him and said with narrowed eyes. Dragon King, most of my subordinates are in the boundless sea. I will go back and bring them over quickly. He raised his head and replied. Go. Wang Xian ordered indifferently. Yes. Aohe's eyes were sparkling as he stood up and left immediately. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.